Archaeologists opened the tomb of Egypt's most solitary pharaoh, but what's inside shocks the world. If you've always imagined stories about the pharaohs being wrapped in gold, grandeur, and boundless power, then you might be mistaken. Because today, we're going to step into Abydos, one of the most sacred cities of ancient Egypt, to uncover the harsh fate of a pharaoh considered one of the most unfortunate rulers in history, Seneb-K. The story begins in northern Abydos, where the ancient cemetery of el-Ka'ab lies quietly among the desert sands. It was here that archaeologists unexpectedly discovered a long-forgotten tomb that had slept beneath the earth for thousands of years. And it was no coincidence that upon examining the inscriptions and the remaining artifacts inside the tomb, they immediately declared, "This is the resting place of Pharaoh Seneb-K, also known as Woserebre Seneb-K, a king who lived during the Second Intermediate Period, one of the most chaotic eras in ancient Egypt." His tomb consists of 4 chambers, built in a rather simplified layout compared to the grand constructions of earlier, more powerful pharaohs. But when the experts opened the coffin inside, everyone was stunned. Instead of the intact and dignified remains of a king, what lay before them was a mummy torn into several scattered pieces. This was not only a severe violation in Egyptian culture, but also the clearest evidence that grave robbers had mercilessly desecrated his tomb. Many valuable burial items had disappeared without a trace. Even the canopic jars, sacred containers essential for eternal preservation, were severely damaged inside a cedarwood box that was no longer intact. However, based on the remaining parts of his body, experts determined that Pharaoh Seneb-K was about 5 feet 9 inches tall and died at around 50 years old, a relatively rare age for such a turbulent period. But the biggest shock didn't come from the mummy, it came from the coffin itself. After dating and analysis, archaeologists realized that the coffin was actually older than Seneb-K's lifetime. Its patterns, inscriptions, and materials all revealed that it once belonged to Pharaoh Sobekotep, the 4th of the 13th dynasty. This forced experts to ask, did Seneb-K order his people to steal a coffin that belonged to a king who had ruled centuries earlier? Yet this theory was quickly challenged. Many scholars argue that pharaohs, regardless of how powerful they were, possessed enough wealth that there would be no need to reuse someone else's funerary equipment. Even a lesser-known Egyptian king would have no reason to compromise royal honor by being buried in a second-hand coffin. So what really happened? Was it due to the chaos of the era, leaving the royal court with limited resources? Or was the reuse of coffins actually a practice that simply went unrecorded in Egyptian history? Many questions remain unanswered, many mysteries still unsolved. Yet it is precisely these uncertainties that make Seneb-K one of the most unique pharaohs. A king without a grand pyramid, denied a peaceful rest, but leaving behind clues deep enough to stir history itself. And of course, this is just the first doorway into the mysterious world of archaeology. In the next part of the video, we'll continue tracing the path of other groundbreaking discoveries, where ancient artifacts, mummies, and rituals still whisper stories about a hidden ancient world you've never seen before. Stay with us for the next exploration, because I'm certain it holds even more chilling secrets waiting to be uncovered. The 1,000-year-old mummified baby, buried beneath the soil of Peru. If you've ever been curious about the secrets the earth has quietly hidden for millennia, then the story of a pre-Inca baby mummy in Peru will absolutely send chills down your spine. Right in the bustling capital of Lima, beneath what seems like a calm layer of time-worn dust, archaeologists have uncovered a message sent from more than 1,000 years ago. A tiny pre-Inca infant mummy carrying enormous mysteries from a vanished civilization. Yes, our destination is Puruchuco, the largest Inca-era cemetery ever excavated. And here's the astonishing part. Only 10% of its area has been unearthed, yet it has already revealed nearly 2,000 mummies along with countless archaeological treasures, from pottery and intricate textiles to hundreds of bronze, silver, and gold coins. You heard that right, just 10%. So imagine what the remaining 90% might still be hiding. Then, during what was supposed to be a routine land survey for a new road, a team of archaeologists accidentally discovered this baby mummy, an unexpected find in the middle of a construction zone, yet powerful enough to shake the scientific world. And the surprises didn't stop there. As they dug deeper, they uncovered dozens more mummies within a complex of 26 tombs, including burials of adults and children, all lying silently side by side for centuries, as if waiting for someone to finally tell their story. What's even more exciting is that archaeologist Guillermo Koch revealed that the number of mummies in Puruchuco will certainly continue to rise as nearby areas are excavated further. Thrilling, isn't it? Because each mummy is not just a preserved body, it's a missing puzzle piece that helps us understand the lives, beliefs, and burial techniques of the Inca and the cultures that predated them. But the detail that has stunned archaeologists the most is the incredible level of preservation. Did you know that a mummy found in 2015 still had one of its eyes intact? Just hearing that is enough to make your skin crawl, and yet it's completely true. As for this newly discovered infant mummy, it was immediately transported to a museum for preservation and detailed study, because every thread, every fragment of bone could be an important clue. And as you may already know, Peru is famous for its extraordinary mummies, and this discovery adds yet another layer of depth to the already captivating cultural tapestry of the Inca world. Speaking of which, you might remember the mummy known as the Juanita Ice Maiden, the young girl who slept in the ice atop a mountain for centuries. Thanks to the harsh climate and sophisticated burial practices, Juanita's body is preserved with almost unbelievable perfection. Discoveries like these show us that the Inca were not only a powerful empire, but also incredibly advanced in how they honored and preserved their dead. You see, every time the earth in Peru opens up, history speaks again. These thousand-year-old mummies are not frightening at all. On the contrary, they are silent witnesses telling us about a civilization that once stood proudly across the Andes, about its life, its rituals, and the beliefs of the people who lived long before us. Don't you feel the same way I do? The child's remains buried with a beast in an 8,000-year-old ancient grave. Deep within the quiet forests of eastern Finland, where only the wind brushing through the treetops and the soft crunch of fallen leaves underfoot can be heard, people once accidentally stumbled upon a mystery that had slept undisturbed for 8,000 years. This was the ancient grave at the Majunsuo site near the town of Outokumpu, where, back in 1991, archaeologists first uncovered the remains of a small child, opening the door to a research journey filled with surprises and emotion. Just imagine it, a place that seems completely ordinary on the surface, yet beneath that ancient layer of soil lies the story of a child who lived in the Stone Age. Isn't that enough to give anyone chills? But what was even more chilling was that during excavation, experts discovered tiny teeth, the only surviving traces of that unfortunate child. From these teeth, they determined that the child was only about 3 to 10 years old at the time of death. Pause for a moment and think about it. Who would have guessed that such tiny teeth could help science unveil an entire chapter of human history? Not only that, but the grave also contained 2 quartz arrowheads, both shaped like trapezoids, a distinctive design of mid-Stone Age arrowheads. This helped archaeologists more confidently date the grave to around 8,000 years old, a number so vast it almost exceeds our imagination. However, what touched people the most were the signs of care given to the child before burial. When analyzing the soil inside the grave, experts found down feathers from a waterfowl, very likely used as bedding for the child. Those soft feathers quietly confirmed that even in that harsh, primitive era, ancient people still loved and cherished their children, no differently from us today. But the discoveries didn't end there. Archaeologists also found a single hawk feather, a small detail yet full of meaning. A hawk feather could have been used to stabilize an arrow, but it could also have been a decorative piece sewn onto clothing, symbolizing strength or ritual significance in that ancient community. Just one feather, yet it opened up countless questions. Why was it placed beside the child? Was it a blessing, a farewell ritual, or simply something that once belonged to the child? And then, deeper in the grave, experts found 24 fragments of mammal hair. Many were too damaged to identify, but some were confirmed to belong to a canid, possibly a wolf. These hairs were located near the child's legs, leading researchers to 2 theories. Either a dog or wolf may have been buried alongside the child to protect the young soul on its journey to the afterlife, or the hairs came from wolfskin clothing or footwear worn by the child. Associate Professor Kristina Mannermaa from the University of Helsinki noted that there had previously been a case of a dog being buried with a human in a 7,000-year-old grave at Skateholm. Therefore, the presence of dog or wolf hairs in the Majunsuo grave makes this discovery even more remarkable, adding new layers to our understanding of ancient burial practices. But there was still more. Archaeologists also found plant fibers, likely from willow or nettle. These materials were commonly used in the past for weaving cloth or making fishing nets. This suggests that the child may have been wrapped in handmade fabric or clothing before being returned to the earth. Every tiny sample found inside the grave, whether hair, fiber, or soil, has become a key that helps us retrace the footsteps of people who lived thousands of years ago. Though that child has long been at rest, their story still whispers through each layer of sediment, reminding us that every life, no matter how short, leaves behind a mark that can never truly fade. A 880-pound dinosaur bone found beneath a French vineyard reveals secrets from 140 million years ago. If you ever find yourself wandering through the lush green vineyards of western France, you'd probably never guess that beneath that peaceful soil lies a colossal secret dating back more than 100 million years. And just recently, archaeologists unintentionally awakened the past when they uncovered a fossil that left the scientific community stunned. A massive fragment of a sauropod dinosaur's femur, stretching about 6 feet 7 inches long and weighing roughly 880 pounds. Gives you chills, doesn't it? But what makes this discovery even more extraordinary is its age. After careful analysis, experts revealed that the bone is around 140 million years old, dating back to the late Jurassic period. That was the era when giant, long-necked herbivores like sauropods ruled the land. These creatures were enormous, their necks and tails so long that simply imagining their size is overwhelming. A fully grown sauropod could even reach about 59 feet in height, towering like a small building over the prehistoric landscape. And yet the femur uncovered beneath the vineyard was found in an astonishingly well-preserved condition. Scientists even described it as nothing short of a national treasure. Just imagine, millions of years passing, geological changes reshaping the earth, layers of sediment piling up, and still, that bone remained perfectly tucked away, waiting for the day it would be seen again. Isn't there something almost mysterious, almost destined about that? The excitement didn't stop there. As soon as the femur was brought into the light, researchers immediately compared it to another fossil found in the very same area back in 2010. They wanted to determine whether the two bones might belong to the same dinosaur. While the answer is still under investigation, current theories strongly suggest that both fossils may indeed be remnants of a single gigantic sauropod that once roamed this land millions of years ago. And speaking of the discovery site, Angers-Charente, a region famous for the vineyards that produce the world-renowned cognac, is surprisingly one of Europe's richest paleontological treasure troves. Few people realize that in prehistoric times, this place was a lush, humid, subtropical environment filled with massive plants and countless thriving invertebrates. These ideal conditions turned the region into a true paradise for dinosaurs. Thanks to the steady stream of discoveries over the years, Angers-Charente today feels like a time portal hidden within the modern world. Every time archaeologists sink their shovels into the earth, history seems to come alive again, pulling us back to an age long before humans even existed. Do you feel what I feel? As though we're watching, piece by piece, a story from hundreds of millions of years ago slowly reveal itself? It just shows how many secrets this vast earth still keeps hidden. Who knows? Maybe right beneath your feet, a giant fossil is quietly waiting for its moment to tell its own story. A 3,500-year-old chest reveals secrets about the tomb of Pharaoh Thutmose II. Who among us hasn't dreamed of treasure, of secrets buried for thousands of years? And if I told you that one of the most promising archaeological discoveries is unfolding right now in the land of legendary pharaohs, Egypt, wouldn't you want to follow along immediately? For decades, archaeologists have tirelessly searched for the tomb of Pharaoh Thutmose II, the husband of the powerful female pharaoh Hatshepsut, whose rule once shook the very foundation of ancient Egyptian politics. And just recently, a remarkable discovery has brought the dream of solving this mystery closer than ever. The breakthrough began with an ancient stone chest dating back 3,500 years, uncovered in Deir el-Bahari, a famous archaeological area in Luxor known for its royal tombs. Imagine the scene as archaeologists open the chest, dust falling away, light revealing objects carefully wrapped in linen. The feeling must have been every bit as intense as a moment straight out of an adventure film. Inside the chest, they found a sacrificed goose and an egg from a bird species that remains unidentified to this day. But these seemingly small items contain a whole world of ritual and belief, showing that the ancient Egyptians cared not only about life, but deeply believed in the existence of another world beyond death. What makes the discovery even more extraordinary is a ceramic box inscribed with the name Thutmose II. That single detail was enough to make archaeologists catch their breath, because it could be direct evidence linking the chest to the very pharaoh they've been searching for. Every object, every layer of linen feels like a living page of history, telling the story of power, wealth, and religious practices during Egypt's royal dynasties. Right now, experts are continuing to follow these clues in hopes of determining the exact location of Thutmose II's tomb. If found, this would not be just another archaeological discovery. It would be a chance to better understand the golden age of ancient Egyptian civilization. The tomb is expected to reveal invaluable insights into the lives of the pharaohs, their power, their wealth, and their mysterious religious rituals. At the same time, it may help us better understand the political and cultural role of Pharaoh Hatshepsut, a woman who created some of the most remarkable turning points in Egyptian history. It's fair to say that this is more than just an excavation. It's a journey connecting the past with the present, allowing us to feel the grandeur of ancient Egyptian civilization more vividly than ever, don't you think? The Lover's Remains on Chua Chan Mountain, Vietnam, a testament to love that transcends time. Do you believe in love stories that endure beyond time, even when death itself can't separate two people? If not, let me take you back to one evening in May 2018 in Xuan Son Hamlet, Xuan Trong Commune, Dong Nai Province, Vietnam. It was here that two intact skeletons were discovered inside a mountain cave at an elevation of about 1,312 feet on a peak the locals call Chua Chan Mountain. What shocked everyone was that the two sets of remains were found only about 10 feet from the cave entrance, almost as if they were resting where the last light of the day could still reach them, quietly hinting at a story that had never been told. Around the skeletons, people also found various personal items: clothing, a belt, sandals, a glass bottle containing medicine, and a large cup. These belongings seemed to recount fragments of two lives once lived here, a gentle reminder of their presence and their love. Right after the discovery, locals immediately reported it to authorities. Within a short time, police from Dong Nai Province, together with units from Xuan Loc District and Xuan Trong Commune, arrived to examine the scene and begin their investigation. Although the identities of the two individuals were not yet confirmed, information from local residents suggested they might be a young couple who had gone missing in 1992. According to villagers, the two had been romantically involved but were forbidden to be together by their families. Defying opposition, they ran away, and then disappeared without a trace. For years, both families searched desperately but found nothing. Their disappearance became a painful mystery that lingered in the hearts of those who knew them. One widely discussed theory is that the couple took refuge in the cave on Chua Chan Mountain to escape their family's control. But tragically, they may have encountered an accident or some unexpected danger that led to their deaths, unnoticed by anyone. The image of their skeletons lying side by side, almost embracing both their sorrow and their love, brought tears to many who learned of their story. After the discovery, authorities invited family members of the missing individuals to the site to try to identify the remains. Bone samples were also sent for DNA testing to establish their exact identities. The event quickly drew nationwide attention in Vietnam because the story was more than just a mysterious case. It was a testament to love that endured beyond time, beyond obstacles, and beyond family boundaries. Just imagine those two young people climbing the mountain together to escape, carrying hopes and dreams, only to meet their end in silence, leaving behind a cave and a few belongings as silent witnesses. Heartbreaking, isn't it? Every item, every trace felt like its own story, urging us to pause, listen, and feel. This was not just an investigation. It was a journey that brought people closer to emotion, to love, and to the kind of loss that time can never fully erase. The story of the lovers on Chua Chan Mountain still holds many mysteries, many unanswered questions, but the sight of them lying together in a cave deep in the forest has left an unforgettable imprint, reminding us that love can exist in the most miraculous and the most tragic ways. And if you're someone who loves mysterious stories and human tales filled with emotion, then this is certainly one you won't be able to look away from. The 240 skeletons of black-robed monks reveal a chilling mystery in an 800-year-old Welsh monastery. Can you believe that right in the heart of peaceful Wales in the United Kingdom, archaeologists have just uncovered a mystery buried for more than 800 years? It may sound unbelievable, but it's absolutely true. During the excavation of an ancient cemetery, researchers discovered more than 240 human skeletons, believed to belong to monks who once lived within the grounds of St. Saviour's Monastery, a Dominican monastery whose members were known in the Middle Ages as the Black Friars, named after their distinctive black robes. These monks didn't just live secluded lives inside the monastery, they also regularly walked into town to preach and became an inseparable part of the community's daily life. But what shocked researchers wasn't just the number of skeletons, it was the strange marks found on many of them. As the excavation team carefully removed each layer of soil, they uncovered numerous skulls with deep puncture wounds, suggesting that the people buried here had suffered severe trauma. According to lead archaeologist Fran Murphy, these injuries could have come from various causes, but the most striking theory is that they were victims of the 1405 siege, a violent and bloody historical event that took place right in this region. If this hypothesis is correct, then these skeletons are direct witnesses to an era of turmoil and violence that history books rarely mention. Beyond human remains, archaeologists also unearthed several ancient tombs, most notably one that likely belonged to a priest, based on the respectful burial location and unique arrangement of the remains. Nearby, they found intricately decorated floor tiles, believed to be remnants of an older church that may have stood here before St. Saviour's Monastery was constructed in 1256. The monastery existed until the 16th century, when it was dissolved during the sweeping religious changes that followed King Henry VIII's break from the Catholic Church. Because of this, each discovery in the current excavation acts like a missing puzzle piece, illuminating a turbulent chapter in English history, from monastic life and spiritual practices to political and social upheaval. What makes this discovery even more haunting is the unsettling positions of some of the skeletons. Some were found lying at odd angles, while others appeared twisted, as if they had suffered violent impact before burial. These signs have prompted researchers to raise countless questions. Were these individuals buried according to special rituals, or were they victims of violence, hastily buried during wartime chaos? Every skeleton seems to tell its own story, yet each one also deepens the mystery. And as you can see, the deeper archaeologists dig, the more vivid and chilling the medieval past becomes, far more than we might imagine. The investigation will certainly continue, as researchers believe that many secrets are still waiting beneath the soil. So what about you? What do you think really happened in this ancient monastery? Was it a matter of religious ritual, or a bloody tragedy obscured by time? Share your thoughts in the comments below so we can explore the mystery together. 7 skeletons tell the story of a horrifying night in a house that burned down 5,700 years ago. In the world of archaeology, ancient houses sometimes tell stories far more terrifying than any legend. And one of the clearest examples lies in Kosinivka, a site located about 115 miles south of Kyiv, Ukraine. Here in 2004, archaeologists uncovered nearly 100 fragments of human bones within the remains of a prehistoric house. After careful study and analysis, they determined that these remains belonged to 7 individuals, 2 children, 1 teenager, and 4 adults, people who had lived through a nightmarish event approximately 5,700 years ago. What remained inside the house was not just ash and scattered bones, but vivid evidence of a family tragedy. Among the 7 individuals, 2 showed severe head injuries, suggesting violent assault before the fire erupted. And then came another puzzling detail. 1 adult died more than a century later than the other 6. This time gap became a major mystery, leaving researchers struggling to uncover what truly happened. Katharina Fuchs, a biological anthropologist at Kiel University in Germany, along with her colleagues, proposed a chilling hypothesis. Could the fire and the earlier violent injuries be connected? Perhaps some victims were murdered inside the house before the perpetrator set it ablaze, creating a night of blood and fire that claimed an entire family. Just imagining that scenario is enough to give anyone chills. You see, Kosinivka wasn't an ordinary settlement. It was once part of the Cucuteni Tripilia Agricultural Society, whose people lived in what is now Romania, Moldova, and Ukraine between 4,800 and 3,000 BCE. Their settlements included family homes and public buildings, and many of their structures were intentionally burned when residents abandoned them, adding yet another layer of mystery to this tragic discovery. In this particular case, 4 skeletons were found inside the burned house, while 3 others, unburned, were discovered outside. Archaeologists believe that the 3 outside may have died from smoke inhalation, while the other 3 perished directly in the flames. Altogether, the scene paints the image of a once lively household, people who talked, laughed, and lived, only to vanish in catastrophe. Yet one major question still remains unanswered. Why did the 7th person die at the same location but more than a century later? Was this person a descendant, or simply someone who happened to die at the site of an old tragedy? When you look at the image of these 7 skeletons resting amid the ruins of a prehistoric home, doesn't it feel like a reminder that every house, every place, carries its own story, sometimes peaceful, sometimes horrifying, and sometimes challenging modern humans to search for answers across millennia? If you feel the same way I do, then congratulations, we're on the exact same wavelength. 80 shackled skeletons, from 2,600 years ago, unearthed in Athens. When you think of Athens, you probably picture ancient columns, magnificent temples, or the lively rhythm of a modern city by the sea, right? But what many people don't know is that right in the center of Athens, between the city and the port of Piraeus, a chilling secret had been lying silently beneath the ground for thousands of years. It all began in 2016, when workers were constructing a new opera house and library. During excavation, they unexpectedly dug into the Phaleron Delta, an ancient cemetery. Archaeologists and specialists were immediately called in, and what they uncovered left them stunned. 80 skeletons, all shackled, stretched out like a tragic ribbon across the sandy ground. Some bodies were laid out neatly in rows, while others were piled on top of each other, their arms and legs bound tightly. Many of the skulls still had their jaws locked wide open, as if frozen in a scream that had echoed through millennia. After dating the remains, experts determined that most of the skeletons were from around 632 BCE, and many belonged to young, healthy individuals in the prime of their lives. This raised a haunting question for anyone fascinated by history. Why did these strong young people meet such a brutal end? Archaeologists concluded that these were not slaves or ordinary criminals. The fact that all 80 were buried together, bound in chains, strongly suggests a mass execution. But what kind of event could have led to such a grim fate? Based on the age of the remains, researchers believe these individuals were likely supporters of Cylon, a figure who attempted a coup in Athens in 632 BCE. With help from his father-in-law, the tyrant of Megara, Cylon sought to seize power, but ultimately failed. His loyal followers were captured, executed, and buried while still shackled, an ending as painful as it is tragic. Even after thousands of years, the skeletons continue to tell their story, a political catastrophe, a violent turning point in Athenian history. Yet many mysteries remain unsolved, such as the exact identities of the 80 individuals, the precise reason for their execution, and why they were buried in such a humiliating position. These unanswered questions mark this site as one of the great archaeological enigmas of ancient Greece. Have you ever wondered what you might feel if you stood at that excavation site, staring down at those bound skeletons? Would they serve as a reminder of the cruelty of power, or as evidence of a turbulent era in which human lives were the price of political ambition? The story of these 80 shackled skeletons is more than an archaeological discovery. It's a doorway into the past, allowing us to glimpse lives that disappeared into the shadows of history, yet still echo with suffering after thousands of years. And who knows? One day, researchers may uncover the final piece of evidence needed to solve this mystery. Discoveries like this not only deepen our understanding of ancient Athens, but also remind us that history isn't just a collection of dates and events, it is the story of people, their pain, their beliefs, and their devastating losses. The 16,000-year-old Ice Age cave entrance. One April morning, just as the sun rose and its light filtered through moss-covered trees, a team of archaeologists stopped at a mysterious survey site in the town of Engen, in Germany's southern Konstanz district. They had no idea that right beneath the seemingly lifeless layer of sediment lay a doorway into the past, a cave entrance that once sheltered our ancestors during the frigid Ice Age, some 16,000 years ago. And that is how the strange story of its rediscovery, after decades of being buried, began. This cave wasn't entirely unknown. Back in 1978, archaeologists had already discovered its existence when they blasted a hole through the cave ceiling to investigate when humans might have lived there. Through layers of soil, they uncovered traces of life, remnants of hunter-gatherers who once took refuge inside. But soon after, the opening in the ceiling was sealed and the excavation was halted, waiting for a more suitable time in the future. Just like that, a major mystery was tucked away beneath the earth, hidden by time and nature itself. It wasn't until 2021 that efforts finally resumed. Over 6 weeks of surveying, experts from the University of Tübingen, led by Dr. Yvonne Tafelmeier, collected valuable new data. Yet one problem continued to plague them. The cave's original entrance still hadn't been found. Even though they were certain this site had been occupied during the Magdalenian period, one of the final stages of the Ice Age, the doorway into that ancient world remained sealed shut by layers of sediment. Can you imagine it? A passage blocked by time itself, as if nature were deliberately guarding its secret a little longer. But then, everything changed in April 2024. This time, a research team from the University of Heidelberg joined with a different strategy. They didn't start with shovels. Instead, they used advanced imaging technology, something like using a giant scanner to peer beneath the ground and identify anomalies in the geological structure. What they found was astonishing. A 65-foot-long cavity, marking the location where the ancient entrance once existed. And on July 4th of that year, beneath several feet of sediment, that long-lost doorway finally opened again. But the archaeological treasure didn't end there. During the excavation, the team uncovered numerous artifacts, stone tools, animal bones shaped and used by humans thousands of years ago. These seemingly simple objects are actually invaluable clues, pieces that help us reconstruct how our ancestors lived, hunted, and survived in the harsh, frozen world of the Ice Age. Dr. Tafelmeier described it as an extremely rare find in Paleolithic research, and she's absolutely right. Opportunities to explore a well-preserved Ice Age dwelling site, especially with modern technology, are exceedingly rare. And the most exciting part? The excavation isn't over. The research team plans to return this year to expand the dig and search for more clues hidden within the cave. Who knows what might still be waiting down there? Ancient wall paintings, the remains of old fires, or even footprints, direct evidence of the people who once lived in this place. This discovery hasn't just thrilled scientists, it has ignited the imagination of anyone who loves archaeology or mysteries from humanity's distant past. Have you ever wondered whether the ground beneath your feet, places you walk by every day, might be hiding a forgotten site swallowed by time? How many such doorways are still out there, silently waiting to be opened? And if one day you found yourself standing before an ancient cave like this, what would you feel? Just the presence of wild, untouched land, or a sudden, profound connection to your own ancestors? The 2,400-year-old mummy still smiling beneath a Danish bog. In 1950, on a seemingly ordinary day in Denmark, a family was digging through peat for fuel when they made a shocking discovery. A human body, curled up and bound, with a rope wrapped around its neck, revealed itself. The scene terrified them, and they feared this could be the victim of a violent murder. Without hesitation, they called the police. When authorities arrived at the scene, they quickly realized that this was no recent crime. In fact, the body had been buried under 26 feet of peat for centuries. What they uncovered next was astonishing. This mummy had been preserved for roughly 2,400 years, and miraculously, the body showed no signs of decay. The man's face and body remained remarkably intact, almost as if he had just passed away. The man was later named the Toland Man, after a nearby village. Archaeologists also noted marks around his neck, suggesting he may have been hanged. However, what puzzled everyone most was his expression. A strange smile, as if he had endured pain but retained a sense of calm serenity. This is especially mysterious because, according to historians, cremation was the most common burial practice during the Toland man's time. So why was he buried in a bog instead? Even more than 70 years after his discovery, no one has been able to provide a definitive explanation. Despite this, the Toland man remains one of the most remarkable finds in the history of archaeology. Many people imagine him sleeping peacefully, as though he might awaken at any moment to speak with us. And you? What do you think about the mysterious smile of this ancient man? Share your thoughts below. 2,000-year-old human remains, found in a sunken Greek ship in the Mediterranean Sea. Most of you probably know that the Mediterranean Sea is famous for stories of ships, storms, and treasures hidden beneath its waters. But few could have anticipated that off the coast of Antikythera, Greece, a recent discovery would astonish the archaeological world: the remains of a 2,000-year-old human found in an ancient shipwreck. The remains are not a complete skeleton, but include part of a skull, 2 arm bones, several ribs, and 2 thigh bones. At first glance, it may seem modest, but this is an extremely rare find. Typically, bodies of shipwreck victims do not survive long. They usually decompose or become food for fish. Yet this skeleton has remained remarkably intact for 2 millennia. Even Brendan Foley, an archaeologist from the Massachusetts Institute of Oceanography, called the discovery very special. The find is not only archaeologically significant, but also provides a unique opportunity to learn more about the famous 1st century BCE merchant ship, believed to have been wrecked in a storm off Greece. Equally fascinating is the potential for DNA analysis from the remains. Hannes Schroeder, an ancient DNA specialist at the Natural History Museum of Denmark, noted that preliminary assessments suggest the skeleton belonged to a young man. If scientists are allowed to sample his DNA, they could even determine his hair color, eye color, and ancestry. Information that would bring us closer to understanding the person who lived aboard this ship 2,000 years ago. However, the Greek government has not yet granted permission for such testing, leaving many questions unanswered. The shipwreck lies at a depth of nearly 165 feet and was first discovered by divers in 1900. It was one of the earliest shipwrecks to attract archaeological attention, sparking an exciting era of underwater research. Over the decades, archaeologists have recovered pottery, coins, and other artifacts, but this skeleton is the most recent and groundbreaking discovery, breathing life into the story of the Antikythera ship like never before. Seeing the remains lying quietly on the seafloor, alongside relics from a long-lost era, makes us wonder, what did this man experience before the storm claimed the ship? Where did he come from, and what was his life like? Every bone, every artifact aboard the ship reminds us that history is not only in books, it also lies hidden beneath the sea, waiting to be uncovered. With future DNA analysis, we might even glimpse his eye color, hair color, and facial features, connecting the modern world with a person who lived over 2,000 years ago. Until then, the skeleton remains a silent witness to time and tragedy beneath the Mediterranean waves. Have you ever imagined meeting this man, looking into his 2,000-year-old eyes and face? What stories would he tell? Of the ship, the storm, or a life long lost? Imagine it, and share your thoughts in the comments below. A 700-year-old mummy in a Swedish bog and a curse haunting the Middle Ages. If you think bogs are just muddy fields with reeds, let me take you to a bog in Varberg, Sweden, a place that will completely change your perception. In 1936, the workers harvesting peat at Boxton Bog stumbled upon something they never expected. Beneath the dark, seemingly lifeless mud lay a human body, preserved so perfectly that anyone who saw it would get goosebumps. A young man, estimated to be 25 to 35 years old, lay curled in the cold mud as if asleep for centuries. From this moment, the mysterious story of the Boxton Man began. Scientists quickly got involved. Examination revealed that he was approximately 5 feet 7 inches to 5 feet 11 inches tall, with a strong, healthy build, suggesting he did not belong to the lower classes of medieval society. But what left the archaeologists speechless was the large wound on his skull, measuring about 3 inches long and 2 inches wide, evidence of a severe blow. Even more shocking, his body had 2 wooden stakes driven straight through the heart, as if someone had deliberately pinned him to the bog to ensure he could never return to the land of the living. Not only that, but his clothing was exceptionally well preserved. Boxton Man wore a thick medieval wool tunic, a cloak over it, and his legs were wrapped in cloth. Next to the body were a cloth bag, a belt, and 2 knives, indicating he was neither a vagrant nor an ordinary criminal. All of these details suggest he had status, or at least lived comfortably, in his community. The big question remained, why did he die in such a tragic way? When researchers looked into local folklore, they found a chilling legend surrounding his death. The story goes that Boxton was haunted by the spirit of a fallen soldier. Villagers believed the soldier's ghost, unable to rest, followed and tormented the young man, disrupting his life. You know, in the Middle Ages, fear of ghosts and supernatural forces ran deep. If someone was thought to be haunted, the entire community would panic. To exorcise him, they did something that would send shivers down anyone's spine today. They tied the young man up, drove 2 stakes through his heart, and buried him in the bog. For them, it was the only way to sever the connection between him and the ghost while preventing the soldier's spirit from wreaking havoc on the village. It may sound absurd now, but at that time, spiritual belief outweighed law. At the first sign of danger, villagers would go to any lengths to protect themselves from forces they could not understand. However, some researchers question the folklore. They suggest that Boxton may have been caught in a political conflict or targeted by enemies, and the stakes were a way to conceal the crime. But with no historical records and the body buried in the bog for centuries, all secrets were swallowed by the mud. Thanks to the special conditions of Boxton Bog, low temperatures and high acidity, the body nearly stopped decomposing. Centuries passed, and the corpse remained, silently preserving a story that was both tragic and mysterious, waiting to be discovered in 1936. Today, Boxton Man is not just a mummy. He is a key for scientists to unlock insights into medieval life, beliefs, and fears. He is also the center of countless hypotheses. Was the story merely folklore, or was he really a victim of a cruel ritual? Or was there a hidden conflict, a crime that time deliberately tried to erase? 11 archaeological discoveries, scarier than Chinese horror movies that will give you chills. The Ukrainian mother's mummy in a sealed room for 30 years. Did you know that right in the middle of a typical residential area in Ukraine, in a tiny, cramped, and pitch-dark apartment, a secret had been hidden for 30 years? That secret only came to light when neighbors stopped seeing the 77-year-old woman for several days and decided to call the police. They could never have imagined that behind that old door lay a truth so chilling it would send shivers down anyone's spine. When the police broke in, the first thing they saw was a frail elderly woman lying motionless on the floor. The apartment had no electricity, running water, or gas. It seemed she had been living in these harsh conditions for a long time. But moments later, the officer's attention was immediately drawn to an old sofa in the corner of the room. On it lay a desiccated body, dressed in a white dress, wearing a headscarf, sky blue shoes, and green socks. A mummified body had been preserved right there in the apartment. Horrifying, isn't it? Then came the news that stunned everyone. It was the 77-year-old woman's own mother. This Ukrainian woman had lived alongside her mother's mummified body for 30 years. Yes, you read that correctly, 3 whole decades, completely unknown to anyone. The apartment where she lived was cramped and filled with piles of trash, newspapers, and clutter. The smell of decay, rot, and the marks of time were evident everywhere. But what is most perplexing is how the mother's body had dried out and remained intact like a natural mummy. Even more astonishing, the 77-year-old woman was completely paralyzed in both legs. She lay in place, barely able to care for herself. When the police arrived, they had to call in a rescue team to break the door and enter. She lay on the floor, unable to move or call for help. Her life seemed trapped inside her own home, amid trash, darkness, and isolation. Though she lived quietly and rarely opened her door, neighbors regularly left food outside, knowing she was ill and lived alone. Yet for all those years, no one suspected that the mother's mummified body was hidden inside her home. A secret so shocking it left the entire neighborhood in disbelief once revealed. To investigate the mystery of the mummified mother, the police sent a team of forensic experts to the scene. Upon approaching the body, they found it unusually well preserved. It was unclear why it had not decomposed normally. Experts suggested it could be due to the apartment's temperature, low humidity, or the way the daughter had arranged things to keep her mother nearby. It might also be a rare case of natural mummification, similar to some bodies preserved in particularly dry environments around the world. The body has now been sent to a forensic laboratory to determine the cause of death and whether it might have been a homicide that occurred long ago. Police are also investigating further details, from the exact time of the mother's death to the circumstances that led the daughter to keep her mother's body for 30 years without burial. However, the aspect that fascinates and unsettles most people is the strange bond between mother and daughter. Why would a daughter choose to live with her mother's corpse for decades? Was it grief, loneliness, or an obsession no outsider could understand? The story becomes even more eerie given the passage of time. 3 decades with no one knowing, no one suspecting, and no one ever stepping inside the apartment. Only when the elderly woman became immobile did the secret finally come to light. Whatever the ultimate explanation, this case is undeniably chilling. It carries the weight of desperate isolation and a mysterious haze surrounding the mother's death. More importantly, it raises a question that makes anyone pause. Behind the closed doors around us, how many silent, terrifying stories might be hidden? A small room, a disabled elderly woman, and a mummy kept secret for 30 years. Sometimes the most frightening truths are right beside us, we just haven't opened the door yet. We will have to wait for experts to reveal what ultimately happened to the 77-year-old woman and her mother. The secret gold coin jar, buried beneath an ancient temple. While clearing a vacant plot of land to make a garden near the Jambukeswarar temple in Tamil Nadu, India, a group of workers made a surprising discovery. A metal jar buried nearly 7.9 feet underground. The jar was tightly sealed, heavy, and had remained in the darkness for centuries, as if trying to hide a huge secret. Naturally, no one dared to open such a mysterious object on the spot, so they immediately reported it to the temple authorities, the police, and the local government. Everyone quickly arrived, and the jar was carefully lifted from the ground. However, when it was opened in front of the officials, everyone was stunned. Inside were 505 gold coins, with a total weight of over approximately 3.78 pounds. Most were small coins, except for one large coin. The gold gleamed as if freshly polished, making it hard to believe they had been buried for hundreds of years. This discovery then took the story in a completely different direction, straight into the ancient history of the temple. Recognizing the historical value of the coins, the police immediately contacted archaeologists. Initial studies revealed astonishing information. The coins bore Arabic inscriptions and were likely minted between the years 1000 and 1200, meaning they are roughly 800 to 1000 years old. So how did Arabic coins end up beneath an ancient Indian temple? The history of the Jambukeswarar temple provides the answer. The temple was built 1,800 years ago during the Chola dynasty, a powerful kingdom renowned for its extensive trade networks across the region. The Cholas not only traded throughout Southeast Asia, but also established deep commercial ties with merchants across the Indian Ocean, including Arab traders. It is therefore highly possible that these gold coins once belonged to merchants from distant lands and were offered to the Jambukeswarar temple as a form of donation. Historical records suggest the temple received numerous valuable offerings over the years, including silver statues, gold ornaments, and even land. But because it held so many treasures, the temple also became a target for thieves. In the 14th century, General Ulugh Khan led troops to raid the temple. This gives rise to a plausible theory. Perhaps the temple's guardians buried the jar of gold coins to protect it from looters. Due to the chaos, they either forgot its location, were unable to return, or perished. And so the treasure lay hidden underground for centuries, only to be uncovered today. Currently, the ancient jar and its 505 gold coins have been moved to a secure storage facility where experts will continue analyzing them. They will determine the coin's exact age, origin, and true value. So before all the answers are revealed, what do you think? Was this jar simply a hidden treasure, or does it hold a historical secret we have never known? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Giant fossil creature challenges the limits of evolution. If you think the blue whale, the heaviest animal on the planet, is the pinnacle of size in the natural world, you might want to think again. Recently, scientists announced the discovery of a fossil belonging to a gigantic creature named Perucetus colossus, found in Peru, which lived around 38 to 40 million years ago. Just the name alone makes it sound extraordinary. The giant whale of Peru, and indeed it is, even surpassing the blue whale in sheer weight. Estimates suggest that Perucetus weighed at least 85 tons, with an average around 180 tons. To put that into perspective, the largest blue whale ever recorded weighed about 190 tons and measured over 108 feet in length. Meanwhile, the long-necked dinosaur Argentinosaurus, the heaviest land animal ever to walk the earth, weighed only around 76 tons. And yet Perusitis, an ancient resident of the oceans, could reach the weight of an entire multi-story building, a true prehistoric sea monster. The fossil was found in the coastal desert of southern Peru, a region famous for whale fossils. This time, archaeologists unearthed 13 vertebrae, 4 ribs, and a hip bone of Perusitis. What intrigued them most was the extremely dense and heavy structure of its bones. This condition, called pachyosteosclerosis, is usually seen in sirenians, sea cows, but does not appear in modern whales or dolphins. The skeleton alone weighed between 5 and 8 tons, roughly twice the weight of an adult blue whale's bones. With its bulky and heavy body, Perusitis is thought to have resembled a sea cow more than a whale. It even reminded scientists of the Steller's sea cow, discovered in 1741 but extinct just a few decades later due to human hunting. However, the absence of a skull and teeth in the fossil makes it harder to determine the diet of Perusitis. Based on its body structure, researchers speculate that it was not an active predator. Instead, Perusitis likely wandered in shallow waters, foraging by rooting through the sand for small mollusks and crustaceans. Another interesting point is that although Perusitis belongs to the group of ancient whales, it still retains traces of hind limbs, showing that its ancestors were once land-dwelling mammals, about the size of a medium dog, with hooved feet. Whales in general left the land more than 50 million years ago, and Perusitis provides a remarkable testament to that extraordinary evolutionary transition. Compared to Basilosaurus, a smaller, long-bodied ancient whale, we see two opposite evolutionary strategies. Basilosaurus was a fierce predator with a streamlined body and powerful jaws, while Perusitis took a different path: slow, heavy, less mobile, and feeding on small prey. Two species living in the same oceans, yet following completely different survival strategies. Imagine, tens of millions of years ago, a creature weighing hundreds of tons quietly moving along the ocean floor, slowly foraging through the sand. The scene alone is enough to make anyone shiver at the diversity and wonder of evolution. And I think you, like me, are no exception. Prisoner ship missing for 81 years. Suddenly found 13,100 feet below the South China Sea. After more than 8 decades lost in the depths of the ocean, one of the most tragic chapters in Australia's maritime history has finally been revealed. The wreck of the Montevideo Maru, which claimed the lives of 1,060 prisoners, has been discovered on the floor of the South China Sea, dozens of nautical miles from the Philippine island of Luzon. What is truly chilling is that it lies more than 13,100 feet below the surface, a place where light never reaches and where painful memories have been buried for 81 years. This information was confirmed by Australia's Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles in a video posted on April 22nd. He noted that this discovery is not only a remarkable achievement in deep-sea exploration, but also brings closure to one of Australia's greatest military losses. For decades, thousands of families had no idea where their loved ones' bodies had been lost in the vast ocean. The tragic story began on July 1, 1942, at the height of World War II. The Montevideo Maru was traveling from what was then the Australian-administered territory of New Guinea to Hainan Island, which was occupied by Japan. On board were 1,060 prisoners, including 850 Australian servicemen, all being transported to internment camps. Fate took a cruel turn when an American submarine spotted the Montevideo Maru and immediately launched torpedoes. The problem was that the ship was not marked as carrying prisoners, a detail that made this attack a haunting mystery for decades. Just minutes after being hit, the ship sank to the deep, taking everyone on board with it. No one had a chance to escape, and no one could utter a final word. Deputy Prime Minister Marles emotionally shared that the long absence of the ship's location had denied many families a proper farewell to their loved ones. For the soldiers, the heartbreak was even greater. They died in silence, victims of a tragic mistake between allies. That is why this discovery is seen as a measure of comfort after more than 80 years of grief. It cannot bring them back, but at least it provides the answers generations of relatives have long awaited. The search for the Montevideo Maru spanned many years and succeeded thanks to the combined efforts of deep-sea survey experts, the Australian Armed Forces, and numerous international organizations. Lieutenant General Simon Stewart, Chief of Army for Australia, expressed his gratitude. emphasizing that the loss is a stark reminder of the terrible cost of war and urging that we never forget. Even Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese paid tribute to the 1,060 souls who remain on the ocean floor. They did not return, but their story has resurfaced for the world, raw, painful, and deeply human. Now, after 81 years, the Montevideo Maru has finally been located. Though it still rests on the seabed, the truth of this tragedy has been brought to light, allowing the departed to find some peace and the living to never forget the lessons that history has left behind. The mysterious mummy who still smiles after lying in peat for 2,400 years. If someone said that a man had been sleeping underground for 2,400 years, died in a violent way, yet his face remained serene as if dreaming, most people would think it's just a story from a fantasy novel. But no, this story is entirely real, and this strange phenomenon has puzzled human curiosity for decades. Among the countless peat bog bodies discovered across Europe, there is one man so extraordinary that he has obsessed scientists for years. This man is known as the Toland Man, the central figure of the mysterious story we are about to explore. It all began in early May 1950, in a quiet rural village in Denmark. A family was digging peat for fuel, a common daily task, so no one expected to find anything unusual. Yet, at a depth of about 8 feet, they discovered a human body curled up. A rope was still wrapped around the neck. What made them shiver even more was the man's face, calm, peaceful, and almost smiling. Fearing he might be a victim of a crime, they immediately called the police. But when the investigators arrived, everyone was stunned. The body was extraordinarily well preserved, not like a recently deceased corpse, but bearing the marks of centuries. An archaeologist was quickly summoned. After examining and analyzing the body, he confirmed, this was not a modern man. This was a man who had lived 24 centuries ago. To make him easier to refer to, he was nicknamed the Toland Man, after the nearby village where he was found. From that moment, the Toland Man became a shining star in archaeology. For nearly 70 years, scientists from around the world have studied him, trying to answer a series of questions. Who was he? Why did he die by hanging? Why was he buried in peat instead of being cremated like others of his time? Interestingly, the Toland Man was not alone. Hundreds of bog bodies have been found in European marshlands, from the Eyed Girl and Lindo Man to the Alkan Angja warriors. Most died under strange circumstances, many showing signs of violence. Yet the Toland Man remains the most pristine, almost flawless example. So why were these bodies so well preserved? Scientists explain that peat bogs are highly acidic, extremely low in oxygen, and virtually devoid of living organisms except for a type of moss called sphagnum. As a result, bacteria and insects cannot penetrate, and skin, hair, even internal organs remain intact. In short, peat acts as a natural coffin, preserving forms from thousands of years ago. The Toland Man is the most striking example. He lies there as if sleeping, as if he could awaken at any moment. Looking at his face, one sees no pain, no fear, only an inexplicable peace. This is in stark contrast to the cause of death, hanging. Forensic experts estimate that the Toland Man was about 40 years old at the time of death. After excavation, his head and right foot were separated for chemical treatment, while the rest of the body was dried for display. But the biggest mystery remains. If cremation was the norm back then, why was the Toland Man chosen to lie deep in the peat? Was it a sacrifice, a religious ritual, or an execution? No one knows for certain. In recent years, scientists at the Natural History Museum of Denmark have tried to learn more by sampling his thigh bones and abdominal tissue for DNA analysis. They hope to determine whether the Toland Man was native or a migrant. Yet the peat environment had destroyed almost all of his DNA, leaving fragmented genetic sequences that could not be reconstructed. Even though better samples could be taken from the skull, researchers refused to drill into his perfectly preserved head. Thus, the Toland Man's true identity remains a closed door. In 2002, they turned to a safer method, CT scanning. Thanks to 3D images, experts observed his blood vessel structure, skull, and even small scars on his legs, evidence that he had walked barefoot for most of his life. But that was all the answers they could get. To this day, the Toland Man continues to challenge science. We know he died in pain, yet his face is serene. We know he lived 24 centuries ago, yet his body appears as if he fell asleep only last night. The greatest question, who was he really, remains unanswered. Fossils of an 80-million-year-old dinosaur herd discovered in Italy. If you think Italy is only famous for pasta, pizza, and its ancient cities, think again, because beneath the layers of ancient limestone at Villaggio del Pescatore, near the port city of Trieste, Italy, lies a secret that has stunned the scientific community. Not a single ancient vase, not a lone bone fragment, but the remains of an entire herd of dinosaurs that lived 80 million years ago. Just hearing that gives you chills, doesn't it? But it's true. Since the 1990s, dinosaur traces have been discovered in Italy, though most were just isolated bones, like finding a few scattered pages of an old book. However, when Professor Federico Fanti's research team from the University of Bologna returned to the limestone quarry at Villaggio del Pescatore, they realized that the book was not missing any pages. It had been lying intact underground for tens of millions of years. The newly discovered skeletons belonged to Tethyschodros insularis, a dinosaur species up to 16 feet long, which once roamed the ancient Mediterranean region. What amazed scientists was not just the appearance of this species, but that an entire herd was uncovered at once. The find was so rare that Professor Fanti admitted, "In Italy, this has almost never happened." Among the individuals found, two are particularly notable: Antonio and Bruno. Antonio, the skeleton first discovered in 1996, was originally thought to be a lone specimen. But now science confirms that Antonio was actually a juvenile within the same herd of 11 other dinosaurs. Bruno, a larger, more complete skeleton, is one of the most important finds, helping to reconstruct the species' true appearance. And here's what's really fascinating. Villaggio del Pescatore is not just about dinosaurs. It is truly a fossil treasure trove, preserving traces of fish, crocodiles, flying reptiles, and even small shrimp. Imagine this place 80 million years ago, a warm tropical region full of swamps, shallow waters, and coastal mountains. And it's easy to see why so many prehistoric animals congregated here. For dinosaurs of that era, this environment was practically paradise. Professor Fanti believes this discovery provides deeper insights into how dinosaurs lived, how they interacted with their environment, and even the reasons for their eventual disappearance. What is being excavated here is like the final puzzle piece in a story that has been tens of millions of years in the making. Today, fossils from this limestone quarry are displayed at the Civic Natural History Museum in Trieste, where anyone can see these traces of time up close. And just earlier this year, a giant footprint, believed to belong to a prehistoric reptile, was discovered in the Alps, making the exploration of ancient life in Italy even more exciting. So, if you think Europe holds no more surprises beneath the soil, Italy quietly reminds us, the Earth still hides countless secrets, waiting for those patient enough to peel back each layer of sedimentary rock. Fascinating, isn't it? Now just imagine, beneath the ground you're standing on, could something be quietly sleeping, waiting to awaken one day? The 1,600-year-old rust-free iron pillar, a miracle of obsolete technology? In the bustling heart of New Delhi, where traffic weaves endlessly and modern buildings reach for the sky, there stands a silent witness to history. A more than 1,600-year-old iron pillar, standing tall against time and defying the laws of nature. This is not a grandiose structure, nor is it adorned with gold or precious gems, yet it holds a mystery that leaves modern scientists in awe and asking, why hasn't it rusted? Welcome to one of the strangest and most paradoxical mysteries in the history of archaeology and modern physics. The Delhi Iron Pillar, a forgotten masterpiece amidst ancient ruins, yet containing a technology ahead of its time. Cast around the 5th century CE during the Gupta dynasty, a period often considered the golden age of ancient India, this 23.6 feet tall, nearly 22,000-pound pillar now stands within the grounds of the Qutub Minar complex, which was once the site of a magnificent Hindu temple before its destruction. On the pillar's surface, remnants of ancient Brahmi inscriptions praise the god Vishnu and a legendary king named Chandra, a figure whose identity remains hotly debated among historians. But what makes the pillar legendary isn't what it has, it's what it doesn't: rust. While any iron object, no matter how modern, gradually corrodes due to rain, air, and time, this ancient pillar has remained remarkably intact. No signs of rust, no flaking, no erosion, just a seemingly immortal block of metal standing amidst the modern world. So, what created this miracle? For decades, the question baffled countless researchers. It wasn't until scientists at the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT, examined it under an electron microscope that they uncovered the secret. The pillar's surface is coated with an ultra-thin layer, only about 0.002 inches thick, composed of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen. The astonishing part? This protective layer was not intentionally engineered by humans. It is the accidental result of ancient metallurgical techniques. According to Dr. R. Balasubramanian, who led the study, the secret lies in a seemingly small but crucial factor: the phosphorus content in the iron. During smelting with iron ore and charcoal, the techniques of the time were not advanced enough to remove phosphorus. What might seem like a flaw actually created an extremely effective natural protective mechanism for the metal. Modern iron almost entirely removes phosphorus, less than 0.05%, to improve hardness and malleability. In contrast, the Delhi iron pillar contains more than 1% phosphorus, contributing to an extraordinarily durable armor-like layer that prevents oxidation. This protective coating formed within a few years of the pillar being erected and thickened only very slowly thereafter, but its effectiveness made the pillar nearly immortal. Incredibly, this technological flaw inadvertently created a timeless masterpiece. Archaeologists have even found contemporary weapons, such as swords, knives, and spears, showing similar rust-resistant qualities, suggesting that Gupta-era metallurgical techniques may have accidentally achieved a level of expertise that modern science is still trying to replicate. The Delhi iron pillar is not just a relic of history. It is a living testament to the sophistication hidden in what might appear crude or even mistaken. It forces us to reconsider the idea of progress. Is modern technology truly superior to all previous eras? Or sometimes, is limitation itself the source of extraordinary results? Today, amidst the hurried footsteps of tourists at Qutub Minar, the pillar stands silently but powerfully, reminding the world. It embodies a past era, a once glorious civilization, and the truth that many secrets remain hidden. Perhaps the most miraculous thing about the Delhi iron pillar is not that it has resisted rust, but that it has survived for thousands of years as a wonder flowing against time. A testament to the perfection in imperfection. The mystery of the Delhi iron pillar, has it been fully unraveled, or is it just the beginning of a chain of greater discoveries? Time will tell, and history, like the pillar itself, still has many secrets yet to reveal. Huge treasure found in ancient tomb in England. Most of us have probably dreamed at least once of discovering a treasure buried underground. A moment that seems to belong only in fairy tales or an Indiana Jones movie. But for Thomas Lucking, a 23-year-old student from England, that miracle actually happened in real life. During a routine survey with a metal detector near the village of Winfarthing, Norfolk, Thomas accidentally uncovered an Anglo-Saxon burial site, the resting place of a high-status woman from more than 1,300 years ago. Even more remarkable, on her skeleton lay a precious gold pendant, later valued at £140,000. But this discovery was more than just luck. It opened an entirely new chapter in the archaeological study of the Anglo-Saxon period, when ancient England was transitioning from pagan beliefs to Christianity, a major turning point in Europe's cultural and religious history. Experts believe the woman in the tomb may have been a noblewoman or a spiritual leader, because between 650 and 675 CE, only individuals of exceptional status were buried with gold and luxurious jewelry. The pendant itself is a masterpiece of Anglo-Saxon goldsmithing, crafted with extraordinary skill, reflecting the fusion of indigenous beliefs and the newly introduced Christian faith. Thomas's discovery didn't stop with the gold pendant. He also found several other valuable artifacts in the tomb, all evidence that the person buried there was not only wealthy, but also a highly influential figure in ancient society. The find quickly drew attention from the Norwich Castle Museum, which expressed deep interest in acquiring the collection. With transparency and generosity, Thomas stated that he would share the proceeds from the treasure with the landowner and his companion, while using his portion as a deposit for his first home, a journey from the ground directly into a lifelong dream. Michael Lewis, head of the Portable Antiquities and Treasure Department at the British Museum, emphasized that this discovery is not only of material value, but also an important archaeological milestone, shedding light on Anglo-Saxon society, a flourishing era spanning from the 5th to the 11th centuries in England. After the Roman Empire withdrew from the island in 410 CE, Germanic tribes such as the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes began to settle and establish small kingdoms across the land. It was not until 927 CE, under King Athelstan, that these kingdoms were unified into the Kingdom of England, the foundation of modern England. The Anglo-Saxon period was an age of builders and creators. They were notable not only for military achievements, but also for profound cultural and religious contributions. They constructed monasteries and churches, developed metalworking and textile arts, and left behind literary masterpieces such as Beowulf, an epic reflecting the life, philosophy, and spirit of ancient Anglo-Saxons. Thanks to discoveries like Thutmose's, we can better understand their lives, a society standing at a crossroads, from paganism to Christianity, from fragmentation to unification, from chaos to construction. What makes this particular find extraordinary is the clear link between social power and religion during early Christianization in England. The woman buried here was not only honored with jewelry, but also represented a cultural and religious transition. Although the Anglo-Saxon period ended in 1066, when the Normans invaded England and took control, their legacy remains in the English language, architecture, and culture to this day. Each discovery like this is a crucial puzzle piece, helping to restore a part of Europe's historical soul. So, if one day you wander across a field with a metal detector in hand and a heart full of curiosity, who knows? You might be the one to open the door to history, just as Thomas Lucking did. Sometimes, true treasure isn't measured in gold or silver, but in the stories the past quietly whispers, waiting for someone to listen. Ancient underground city in Turkey could hold 70,000 people, lying hidden for 1,900 years. Do you think underground worlds exist only in science fiction? Think again. Right beneath the peaceful town of Midyat in Mardin Province, Turkey, lies a massive hidden city, so vast that archaeologists believe it could become the largest underground city in the world once fully excavated. And even more astonishing, so far, they've only uncovered about 3% of its total area. Yes, just 3%, and it's already enough to astound the scientific community. It all began with an incredibly accidental discovery. While clearing out an old cave in Midyat, a team of workers stumbled upon a small passage. The deeper they dug, the more rooms, tunnels, and hidden corridors emerged from the darkness. From that moment, a vast underground labyrinth slowly revealed itself, something humanity had unknowingly been standing over for nearly 2 millennia. This city has been named Midyat, a land deeply connected to the rich history, religion, and culture of Mardin. To date, archaeologists have uncovered at least 49 rooms, including places of worship, wells, storage areas, and countless ancient artifacts. But what shocked them the most was evidence showing that this city had been in continuous use for 1,900 years, making it a true underground kingdom. According to Gani Tarkan, director of the Mardin Museum and head of the excavation team, Midyat was likely originally built as a refuge. In the 2nd century, Christianity was not yet an official religion. Families and groups of believers often needed secret places to hide from Roman persecution, and spaces like Midyat offered them safe shelter. At its peak, archaeologists estimate that the city could have housed 60,000 to 70,000 people, a staggering number compared to any other underground structure ever recorded. You know, Turkey is no stranger to cave systems, but the scale of Midyat truly defies expectations. Previously, Derinkuyu in Cappadocia was considered the most complex underground city, with 8 floors reaching 262 feet deep, including ventilation shafts, tombs, living quarters, and stone doors weighing nearly 1,000 pounds that could only be opened from the inside. Yet according to Gani Tarkan, all of these earlier constructions might pale in comparison once Midyat is fully excavated. He emphasized, when this city is fully revealed, it will become a globally significant site, a unique underground city in the history of humanity. Imagine it, a colossal living space hidden beneath the earth for nearly 2,000 years, with intricate tunnels, secret living quarters, and traces of ancient religious activity, all waiting to be uncovered, piece by piece. Isn't that absolutely fascinating? 1,350-year-old tomb of a warrior prince. One morning in 2021, in the peaceful lands near the town of Matzes, Bavaria, Germany, an archaeological excavation revealed a discovery of immense historical and emotional significance. Beneath the earth, archaeologists uncovered an ancient stone tomb, the resting place of a child just around 18 months old, nicknamed the Ice Prince. The nickname was no accident. It came from the unique excavation technique used. Experts employed rapid freezing to preserve the entire burial chamber, keeping every detail intact in the most precise and complete way possible. This discovery is not just a meeting with the past. It is a window into over 1,350 years of history, dating to around 670 to 680 CE, when Bavaria lay at the frontier of the mighty Roman Empire. As the layers of soil and stone were carefully removed, scientists were met with a nearly perfectly preserved burial space, with stone walls and ceilings sealed to protect against sediment and the ravages of time. The child's body was carefully laid on a fur blanket, a first indication that this was no ordinary grave. He wore a finely crafted linen long-sleeve shirt, decorated with silk bands, a material extremely rare at the time, imported from the distant Byzantine Empire. These silk bands were more than decoration, they were a statement of status, indicating that the boy came from a high-ranking family in society. Perhaps the most astonishing element for archaeologists and the world alike were the grave goods: a small sword, a gold cross, silver bracelets, and notably, silver spurs attached to his shoes. These items were not only materially valuable, but deeply symbolic, reflecting the family's grief and reverence for their young child. The boy, who had just begun walking, an age researchers determined to be between 8 and 18 months, likely took his first steps before a tragic illness claimed his fragile life. Strontium isotope analysis of his tooth enamel confirmed that he was born in the very region where he was buried, and his diet was primarily breast milk. DNA analysis further revealed that he had blue eyes and light-colored hair, a look probably typical for the local population of the time. Yet the Ice Prince did not die in war or from violence, as many might imagine from the tumultuous era. His death came from something far more ordinary and tragic, a prolonged middle ear infection that developed into a chronic condition, a common but deadly affliction in a pre-antibiotic world. All the archaeological evidence, from the burial method to the grave goods to the biological analysis, points to the death being a profound shock for the family, who went to extraordinary lengths to honor the child with ceremonies and artifacts reflecting his status. In the turbulent world of the 7th century, where political, cultural, and religious boundaries constantly collided and shifted, the discovery of the Ice Prince is not merely an archaeological find. It is a deeply moving reminder of timeless humanity. More than 1,300 years ago, the loss of a child could still touch hearts today, as love, grief, and the desire to preserve memory have always been part of the human story. A monumental tomb with a 2,000-year-old mummy in Pompei. Nearly 2,000 years ago, in 79 CE, the city of Pompei, one of the flourishing cities of the Roman Empire, was completely destroyed by the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. This catastrophic natural disaster was one of the deadliest in European history. Lava and searing gases swept through the city, claiming the lives of at least 2,000 people. Yet, after this tragedy, Pompeii became a living museum of Roman life, where countless relics and artifacts from a vanished civilization have been preserved. These remains have allowed historians and archaeologists to uncover fascinating insights into Pompeian society, culture, and daily life over the centuries. Recently, archaeologists sparked a wave of excitement when they discovered a mummy preserved in an extraordinary state, arguably the best preserved mummy ever found in Pompeii. This find is remarkable not only because the body is nearly intact, but also because it shows evidence of special preservation techniques, almost akin to embalming. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Details such as remaining white strands of hair on the head and parts of the ear still intact have astonished researchers. So, who was entombed here? The man has been identified as Marcus Venerius Secundio, a former slave who, after gaining his freedom, became wealthy and influential in Pompeii. Interestingly, he did not just acquire wealth, he also secured a significant social status. While not super wealthy, he certainly owned substantial assets. His story stands as a testament to social mobility in Roman society. From a captive slave, Marcus Venerius Secundio found a path to freedom and achieved remarkable accomplishments. What surprised researchers even more were the inscriptions on his tomb, which indicate that Marcus was not only affluent, but also actively involved in cultural activities. He organized performances in Greek rather than Latin, highlighting the rich cultural exchanges and openness of Pompei at the time. Clearly, in the past, Pompei was a culturally diverse city where people could freely interact, learn, and create. A major question remains: was the preservation of this individual a deliberate act by the Romans, or was it purely coincidental? Archaeologists have yet to find a definitive answer. However, this discovery opens a new window into understanding the customs and rituals of ancient Rome. Interestingly, researchers also found fragments of woven cloth surrounding the mummy, which may provide further clues about ancient preservation techniques. The skeletal remains and organic materials have been sent to laboratories for further analysis, offering a unique opportunity to deepen our understanding of life in Pompeii. This discovery not only unveils secrets of a lost civilization, but also sheds light on everyday life, cultural practices, art, and social relationships in ancient Roman society. Archaeologists open the tomb of China's unluckiest princess, but what they found is stunning. The place where we explore the mysteries buried deep beneath the earth, where every excavation has the potential to change our understanding of history. Today, I'll take you to Qin-era China, a period whose very mention sends shivers down many people's spines. Yes, this was the era of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor who unified the realm and laid the foundation for a Chinese empire that would last for thousands of years. But beneath the glory lies countless tragic stories, and one of them is the secret of the tomb of the princess he loved the most. Dear viewers, when it comes to Qin Shi Huang, everyone knows he had 33 children. Among them, the one he adored above all was Princess Yang Man. She lived in luxury, enjoying privileges and wealth without a care in the world. Yet life can turn on a dime. After the death of Qin Shi Huang, his 18th son, Hu Hai, ascended the throne, and everything changed for Yang Man. But before we talk about her tragic end, let's go back to the excavation that once shook the archaeological world, her tomb. In the Shangtiao area of Shandong Province, China, archaeologists discovered 7 tombs side by side. When they opened the coffins, what they saw was not only skeletal remains, but also evidence of horrifying deaths. Based on the condition of the bones, experts determined that the victims had been killed in some of the most brutal ways of the time: beheading and dismemberment. The atmosphere in the tombs seemed frozen with the cruelty they suffered before death. What shocked archaeologists the most, however, was a seal engraved with the name Yangxi, identified as Princess Yang Man's official stamp. Thanks to this detail, they could confirm that this was indeed her resting place, the girl who had once been the most pampered in the Qin palace. So what led a princess who lived in luxury to such a horrific fate? The answer lies in the brutality of Hu Hai after he seized the throne. Before becoming emperor, Hu Hai and the eunuch Zhao Gao hatched a dark plot. They forged an imperial decree to force his eldest brother, Fu Tu, to commit suicide, clearing the way for Hu Hai to become king. Once in power, he did not hesitate to massacre his own siblings to eliminate all threats. Historical records show that 12 princes were executed in the marketplace of Hanyang, and 10 princesses were dismembered. And of course, Princess Yang Man, the one he had once loved most, could not escape her grim fate. By now, many of you must be feeling a chill. A family that once stood at the pinnacle of power was suddenly slaughtered by their own descendants without mercy. That's why the story of Princess Yang Man's tomb doesn't just reveal the cruelty of the Qin court. It shows us that history can sometimes be scarier than any movie. And friends, this is only the beginning. We still have a series of other shocking archaeological discoveries and even more terrifying secrets waiting ahead. So stay tuned, and let's continue uncovering the next findings in this video, where every layer of soil tells a story that will give you goosebumps. Don't go anywhere. 113,000-year-old ancient tombs of a mysterious people disappeared in the Caribbean Sea. My friend, imagine one day you're standing in a peaceful neighborhood and suddenly, as you dig a little into the soil, You uncover a fragment of an ancient bone. How would you react? Shocked, curious, or excited? And if, in that moment, you have no idea what to do next, let's travel together to the outskirts of Les Abymes, on the most populous island of Guadeloupe in the southeastern Caribbean. Here, archaeologists discovered 113 fully intact tombs belonging to a mysterious people who vanished over 1,000 years ago. It all began when excavators were leveling the ground for a housing project on this beautiful island, and unexpectedly, tomb after tomb emerged, as if a world from 1,000 years ago was rising to the surface. Not just one or two, but 113 intact tombs dating from the 11th to the 13th century, lying silently beneath layers of volcanic soil that seemed lifeless. Each tomb seemed to tell the story of a mysterious people who once lived here. Experts later identified them as the Taino, an island branch of the Arawak people, distinguished by their residence on Caribbean islands rather than the mainland. This people had once flourished, leaving traces dating back to 3000 BCE, countless carved stone figures, intricate cave art, and other evidence showing a highly sophisticated culture. But history was far from kind. By the late 14th century, the Taino were invaded by the Carib, a fierce warrior tribe. Some Taino were wiped out, while others assimilated and disappeared into new communities. The tragedy continued. Just 100 years later, the Spanish arrived, plunging the Taino into further upheaval, nearly erasing them from existence. The combination of these invasions and the high acidity of volcanic soil almost completely destroyed evidence of the Taino, leaving them as a mysterious people who seem to vanish from history. Yet today, right in the outskirts of Les Abymes, the most populous city in Guadeloupe, what seemed lost forever has unexpectedly resurfaced. Local authorities, fearing there could be more ancient remains beneath the soil, called in the French National Institute for Preventive Archaeological Research, INRAP, to investigate. And that's when history seemed to swing open a door to the past. When the experts began to dig, the first thing that stunned them was the unusual burial positions. All the skeletons, adults and children alike, were curled up neatly like fetuses. This was a characteristic Taino burial practice of the late period, reflecting their belief in returning to Mother Earth. Even more astonishing was the exceptional level of preservation. In highly acidic volcanic soil like Guadeloupe, human bones and artifacts usually decay within a few hundred years. Yet in this cemetery, everything remained intact, almost defying the laws of nature. INRAP concluded that a unique composition of the Les Abymes soil accidentally created an ideal preservation environment, acting like a natural refrigerator of the past. These remains date to the late Ceramic Age, a period known for refined pottery with sharp, distinctive Taino designs. It was also a time when they left primitive caves, built larger villages, and developed a vibrant artistic life. Some ancient stoneworks had been found on the island before, but never an entire large intact cemetery like this. INRAP plans to conduct comprehensive genetic analyses on all 113 skeletons to study kinship, settlement patterns, and even migration origins of the ancient Taino. This could answer long-standing questions. Where did they come from? Why did they flourish and then disappear? Were they fully assimilated, or do any descendants survive today? Even if the answers are not immediate, just one housing project has unexpectedly opened a door to a vanished civilization. Fascinating, isn't it? Newborn mummy in an 18-inch box reveals a mother's lifelong secret. In life, sometimes secrets that seem buried forever suddenly resurface, leaving an entire family in utter shock. Such was the case in North Yorkshire, England in 2018. A story so mysterious it sent chills down the spines of both investigators and locals alike. Imagine this. While cleaning a seemingly ordinary house, you stumble upon a small box, just over 18 inches long, tucked under the staircase, and inside, a mummified newborn that had been hidden for half a century. Even hearing it makes your spine tingle, doesn't it? The story begins on February 3, 2018, when the three Thompson siblings returned to their late mother Carol Thompson's home. They thought they were merely tidying up and collecting a few keepsakes of their deceased mother. But when they opened a drawer under the staircase, they discovered a wooden box about 18 inches in length. On the outside, it looked unremarkable. Yet when they lifted the lid, all three froze. On top lay an old envelope, and beneath it, a tiny mummified body carefully wrapped in clothing. Not wanting to keep it at home, they immediately took the box to the North Yorkshire Police for investigation. Detective Sergeant Matthew Wilkinson, who examined the box, confirmed that it contained the remains of a newborn, wrapped and placed in the box sometime in the late 1950s or early 1960s. The letter inside, dated August 1968, made the case even more mysterious. DNA testing stunned the family. The baby in the box was the biological child of Melvin and Carol Thompson, the very parents of the 3 siblings standing before the investigators. In other words, the tiny mummified infant was their older brother. Yet throughout all those years living with their mother, no one, including Carol's ex-husband Melvin, knew she had given birth to another child. This raises pressing questions. Why did the mother keep the baby's existence secret for a lifetime? What had happened at that time? Why was the body preserved in a box and hidden under the staircase for decades? Though the events occurred long ago, the questions remain unanswered to this day. Authorities tried to investigate, but they hit a dead end. They could not determine whether the baby had died before or after birth, as the remains showed no signs of trauma. Despite every effort, all clues seemed to vanish with Carol when she passed away in January 2018. What makes this case even more heartbreaking is the family context. Melvin and Carol married in 1968 and divorced in 1996. Their 3 current children were all born after 1968, meaning the newborn discovered was born before the official marriage. And so the secret remained with Carol for decades, never spoken of, never known to anyone. Investigator John Broadbridge, with 25 years of experience, described it as the most distressing and sorrowful case he had ever handled. Behind that small 18-inch box lies a tragic family story, unspoken loss, and a grief the mother carried silently to her final moments. What suffering did she endure in the past to keep such a secret? And were there other mysteries she never had the chance to explain? Can you even imagine? 800-year-old skeleton reveals ghost cells of deadly bacteria. At an ancient cemetery in Anatolia, Turkey, archaeologists uncovered the skeleton of a pregnant woman, estimated to be around 30 years old. At first glance, it seemed like just another historical relic among thousands of routine archaeological finds. But a closer look at the skeleton, particularly the lower ribs, revealed unusual nodules never seen before. They resembled the traces of something excruciating, something haunting, that had plunged the woman's body into despair and ultimately claimed both her life and that of her unborn child. Strangely, these nodules did not show signs of tuberculosis, a common cause of skeletal lesions in the medieval period. Using radiocarbon dating, the research team determined that these nodules had existed for approximately 790 to 860 years. The pressing question arose, what had truly killed this woman? And could any clues still be found in these tiny bones? Dr. Caitlin Pepperell, an epidemiologist at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, carefully sectioned the nodules for analysis. From there, a door to genetic discovery swung wide open. Within the unusual calcium deposits lay a revelation that stunned scientists: microfossils or ghost cells of 2 deadly bacteria, Staphylococcus saprophyticus and Gardnerella vaginalis. One commonly causes urinary tract infections, while the other directly attacks the fetus. This lethal combination had nearly written a death sentence for both mother and child in a time when medicine was still in its infancy. The story grows even more astonishing. In the bacterial samples, researchers detected the DNA of a male infant, the unborn child of the unfortunate woman. Remarkably, both the child's DNA and the DNA of the bacteria that killed them remained almost fully intact after nearly a millennium. Normally, only about 1% of bacterial DNA survives after 800 years, but in this unusual case, the survival rate was between 31% and 58%, an almost impossible preservation without some extraordinary protective factor. This astonished scientists. Pepperell commented, "The way the DNA has been preserved is fascinating. The quality of the genetic data is still remarkably high. Those seemingly meaningless nodules were in fact a time capsule, preserving not only the cause of death, but also a silent narrative from the other side. A life that never cried its first breath. A mother who died in isolation and pain, and the invisible killer, bacteria, still lingering silently in our modern world." Does this story send chills down your spine? It does for me, not only because of the horrifying truth revealed nearly 1,000 years later, but also because of a haunting question that remains. If today's technology can reach such deep secrets of the past, how many more mysteries lie buried beneath the soil, waiting to be awakened? And what stories might they tell us? Truly haunting, isn't it? One can only wonder what unimaginable suffering those unfortunate people endured long ago. The giant turtle, inside a sealed tomb for 2,000 years. A tomb had been sealed for over 2,000 years, with only a single entrance. No oxygen, no light, no escape route. Yet the moment experts finally opened the tomb's door, an unexpected sound echoed, freezing everyone in place. From the damp darkness emerged a giant living turtle, slowly crawling forward in full view of the entire archaeological team. Just hearing this sends chills down your spine, doesn't it? But that's not even the most fascinating part. The story behind it is far more incredible. It all began when a farmer in Hubei province, China, noticed an unusual pattern in the soil of his garden. Suspecting something was amiss, he immediately reported it to local authorities. Archaeologists were soon dispatched to the site. After initial inspections, they concluded that it was an ancient tomb, dating back many centuries. However, at that time, excavation technology was not advanced, and heavy rains had damaged and flooded the tomb's outer layers, so the excavation had to be postponed until proper equipment and manpower could be arranged. It wasn't until a specialized team of archaeologists arrived that the tomb's single entrance was slowly opened, a tomb constructed with thick stone walls and a complex design, enough to deter even the most determined ancient grave robbers. You see, during the Three Kingdoms period, after Cao Cao established teams to dig up tombs for treasure, grave robbing ran rampant for centuries in China. Tombs were often built like fortresses, with elaborate traps to ensure intruders had little chance of survival. Interestingly, this tomb did show signs of attempted intrusion, but experts determined that ancient thieves never penetrated its interior. The tomb's interior was still intact and undisturbed. The team's curiosity grew. In a completely sealed, low-oxygen space, what other surprises could await inside? The answer arrived quickly. As the archaeologists began cataloging artifacts on the tomb floor, a small sound echoed, followed by a round, moving shadow. The team froze. When they regained composure, they realized it was a live turtle, remarkably larger than any modern species. It moved calmly, showing no signs of exhaustion, as if waking from a 1,000-year slumber. This is truly astonishing because the tomb was completely sealed. There was no opening for a living creature to enter. The space was tight, with extremely low oxygen, almost impossible for long-term survival. The tomb was carefully constructed with no escape route, yet the turtle survived. This defies all conventional archaeological logic. In ancient Chinese culture, the turtle is one of the 4 sacred animals, symbolizing longevity and immortality. Historical records also note a practice of burying live turtles in noble tombs, believed to protect the soul of the deceased. It's highly possible that this elder turtle was placed in the tomb at the time of the owner's burial. Yet how it could survive until today remains a profound mystery. Closer examination revealed the turtle's shell covered in layers of moss and algae, making precise dating impossible. Its shape is clearly different from modern turtles, larger, rougher, and more mystical. So, what do you think? Is this a miraculously surviving ancient turtle, enduring for 2,000 years, or merely a mysterious visitor who somehow found its way in? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 150-year-old mummified girl found underground, preserved as if sleeping. In one of the busiest cities in the United States, where the blare of car horns, the rush of daily life, and towering buildings crowd every square foot, few could imagine that beneath the garage of a private home in San Francisco lay a secret buried for nearly 150 years. The story began in May 2016, when a group of workers was gardening as usual and unexpectedly struck a strange metal object. Digging further, they could hardly believe their eyes. A solid bronze coffin, less than 3.3 feet long, intricately crafted, lying quietly in the cold soil. On the lid was a small glass window, and through it appeared a scene that took everyone's breath away. The body of a young girl, her curly blonde hair and fair skin perfectly preserved, her face serene as if in peaceful slumber. She lay in a pure white Victorian-style dress, wearing knee-high boots, her hair adorned with lavender flowers, hands clutching a small cross made of flowers. Despite nearly a century and a half passing, everything inside the coffin, from her body to the accompanying items, remained astonishingly intact. Her face showed no signs of decomposition, looking as if she were simply taking a long, peaceful sleep. Experts quickly got involved. They concluded that the girl's remarkable preservation was due to the special design of the coffin, which was completely sealed with no gaps, fully isolating her from the external environment. This slowed natural decay and created a living snapshot of history, as if the past had never truly left. But who was this little girl? Why had she lain quietly underground, nameless and unnoticed, for nearly 150 years? To answer these questions, the non-profit organization Garden of Innocence took charge of the investigation. This journey lasted over a year, tracing records through old cemetery maps, historical archives, and modern technologies like DNA testing. Finally, her name was discovered. Edith Howard Cook, born in 1873, died on October 13, 1876, just weeks before her third birthday. Edith's death was determined to be due to severe malnutrition, with no signs of treatment using common medications of the time, such as morphine or mercury. It was a quiet passing during an era when medicine was still limited. The researchers made a breakthrough upon discovering an old cemetery map at the University of California, Berkeley Library, which led them to the area where Edith's parents had been buried. They then traced living descendants of the Cook family through DNA analysis. Eventually, they found an 82-year-old man named Peter Cook, living in Napa, California, whose DNA matched Edith's, confirming their shared ancestry. Overwhelmed with emotion, Peter said, "I jumped for joy. Finally, I could connect the missing pieces of my family. And now I have a special story to share with my children and grandchildren." The homeowner, Erica Carner, upon hearing the full story, decided to arrange a respectful reburial for Edith. In June 2016, she was laid to rest at Greenlawn Memorial Park in Colma, with a heart-shaped gravestone engraved with a new name, Miranda Eve, and the words, "A child loved by the world. If no one mourns, no one remembers." The story of Edith, or Miranda Eve, is not just a remarkable coincidence. It is a touching testament that time may bury the body, but it cannot erase memory. Every excavation and discovery gives us a chance to connect the past with the present, to give nameless souls the recognition of their once living names. 6,000-year-old burial pit in France reveals chilling secrets of a long-buried massacre. On an ordinary day in the peaceful region of Bergheim, France, archaeologists thought they were conducting a routine excavation, but the ground soon revealed a story that had remained hidden for over 6,000 years. An ancient mass grave was discovered, not merely a resting place for the deceased, but a grim testament to a bloody tragedy that occurred in Neolithic Europe. Within the silent soil, researchers found 7 skeletons, 2 adult males, 1 female, 4 children, and a portion of a newborn skull. Yet the discoveries didn't stop there. Surrounding them were fragmented hand bones and dismembered arm bones, as if some ritual or savage attack had targeted human hands specifically. Archaeologist Fanny Chanal from the Antia Archaeological Institute in Hobsheim was among the first to examine this chilling find. She noted that the evidence indicated the individuals had not died of natural causes. Instead, they appeared to have been slaughtered during a violent confrontation or armed conflict, then hastily buried in the pit. Remarkably, some severed left arms were already present in the pit, which could hold the key to the mystery. Did the perpetrators deliberately collect these left arms as trophies, or were they part of a ritualistic act, symbolizing victory or humiliation? As research progressed, more unusual details emerged. All skeletons retained their arms intact except for one male. The skull showed severe trauma, likely from a heavy blow, and he alone was missing a left arm. But does his severed arm correspond to the ones found in the pit? To this day, that question remains unanswered. Chanal and colleagues have not ruled out the possibility that the left arm was a deliberate target, perhaps connected to Neolithic cultural symbolism or ritual practices. Additionally, at the bottom of the pit, fragmented hand bones were found, evidence that the hands were not only severed but intentionally crushed. This could indicate a religious or punitive practice. Radiocarbon dating revealed that these victims lived around 4000 BCE during the Neolithic period, when small agricultural communities were generally considered peaceful, often burying the dead in round pits. However, the Bergheim discovery shatters that image, revealing that violence and warfare may have been far more intense than previously thought. Chanel emphasizes that this is the first evidence showing that people killed during Neolithic conflicts were also buried in round pits, a phenomenon not previously confirmed. This discovery has not only stunned archaeologists, but also raised profound questions about the true nature of ancient burial pits. Were they repurposed storage sites, graves for high-status individuals with sacrificial attendants, or burial sites for slaves killed as offerings to deities? Accompanying the skeletons were small artifacts, including a shell ornament, a stone-tipped spear, a pig jawbone, and 2 wild rabbit skeletons, all suggesting that some form of ritual activity took place here. Notably, 3 years earlier, archaeologists had excavated 60 other round pits in the Bergheim area, 13 of which contained human remains. Yet only this pit left a chilling impression, reflecting a dark chapter of history that had been hidden for millennia. Was it a massacre, a ritual killing, or simply the remnants of a survival conflict? These questions remain unanswered. The skeletons buried in Bergheim may yet be whispering their story, and perhaps they have far more to reveal than we can imagine. 3,000-year-old sword in an ancient Donau-Ries tomb, Germany, still shines like new. In the ancient lands of Donau-Ries in Bavaria, Germany, where stories from the Bronze Age seem to whisper beneath every layer of soil, archaeologists made a stunning discovery that has left the world in awe. It was a 3,000-year-old sword, yet when lifted from the earth, it gleamed with a brilliance as if it had been forged just a few days ago. Sounds like something out of a movie, right? But this is completely real, and the find has sent archaeologists in Germany and beyond into a state of excitement. According to the Bavarian State Office for Monument Preservation, the sword was found in an ancient tomb alongside the remains of 3 individuals: an adult man, a woman, and a teenager. 3 people, 3 different lives, all buried together next to a weapon so precious that no one yet understands their connection. Were they a family, warriors, or individuals chosen for a special ritual? These questions remain unanswered. What amazed researchers most was the sword's perfect preservation. The hilt was crafted in an octagonal shape, a rare and highly intricate design for the Middle Bronze Age. The entire hilt was made from solid bronze, demonstrating that metalworking techniques over 3 millennia ago had already reached an astonishingly advanced level. Even more remarkable, the sword's color and shine remain almost entirely intact. That's right, after 3,000 years, the sword still shines as if newly forged. Professor Matthias Feil, director of the Monument Preservation Office, admitted his astonishment, calling the find extremely rare. He emphasized that the sword is not ornamental. The forging marks, weight, and structure all indicate that it was a functional weapon, created for real combat. This suggests that its owner may have been a high-ranking warrior in their ancient society. But the mystery doesn't end there. The 3 skeletons, man, woman, and teenager, buried together have archaeologists puzzled about their relationship. Were they members of a noble family, or sacrificial victims in a sacred ritual? Why was such a precious sword buried alongside them? And why were they interred together? Scientists are just as curious as the rest of us, yet answers remain elusive. Accompanying the sword were several grave goods, indicating that this was no ordinary burial. These items suggest that the person buried with the sword held a special position in their community, and that the burial was ceremonial, symbolic, and highly significant, perhaps serving as a final tribute to the deceased. Looking at the broader context of the European Bronze Age, many questions remain. Ancient wars, mysterious traditions, sword-forging techniques that are still difficult to replicate today. The Donau-Ries sword may be the missing piece that illuminates part of a story buried for 3 millennia. So, what do you think? Is this merely a sword that survived by luck, or a symbol of power belonging to a legendary warrior? Or, even deeper, could it be the key to unlocking a story that humanity has never heard? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 3,500-year-old skeletons and an undying love story in the heart of Siberia. In the village of Stary Tartus in Siberia, a sparsely populated land yet rich with archaeological traces, Russian scientists uncovered a scene that left everyone in awe. 2 skeletons lying face to face, hand in hand, as if they had drifted into their final sleep together at the same moment. Detailed examination and analysis revealed that these 2 individuals had died during the Bronze Age, around 3,500 years ago, yet their hands remained clasped together in an astonishingly well-preserved gesture of intimacy. Imagine this. Through thousands of harsh Siberian winters, buried under snow and sediment, this tender moment survived as if sending a silent message to future generations. Truly remarkable, isn't it? But why were they buried this way? Was it love, ritual, or some tragic story lost to time? No one knows for sure. In addition to the ancient lovers' remains, archaeologists discovered many other graves in the area with a curious pattern. Children were often buried alongside adults. This makes the story even more complex. Burials of adults with children suggest parent-child or close family relationships, but when two adults are placed together in such a symbolic pose, it opens a world of possibilities. Science has now stepped in. Experts are currently conducting DNA tests to determine the exact relationship between these skeletons. They believe the results will shed light on the funerary customs of the era, seemingly simple yet shrouded in mystery. One romantic hypothesis suggests that this could be evidence of an early nuclear family model, where parents and children lived together and in death were buried together. If true, it implies that the familial structures we recognize today existed very early in human history. Yet there is a darker, chilling theory. Some researchers propose that when the man died, his wife may have been sacrificed to be buried alongside him, a ritual practiced in several ancient civilizations. Thinking about this gives one chills. What seems like a tender scene could hide a tragic reality. Additionally, Professor Vyacheslav Muladin, director of research at the Institute of Archaeology and Ethnography in Serbia, noted that while children buried with adults is understandable, two adults buried in an intimate pose raises countless possibilities. Only science can help decode the truth. So, what do you think? Do you lean toward a story of undying love or a haunting sacrificial ritual? Share your thoughts. It might help us piece together the most plausible story for this 3,500-year-old couple. Prehistoric woman's skeleton, unearthed in the heart of Rome. In the very heart of ancient Roman civilization, a place that once echoed with the hoofbeats of generals' horses and witnessed speeches that changed the course of history, an ancient secret has unexpectedly emerged from the soil. And the most astonishing part? This secret predates the founding of Rome itself. During an excavation at the Roman Forum, long regarded as the symbol of power for the Roman Empire, Italian archaeologists discovered a well-preserved skeleton of a woman, believed to have rested there for more than 3,000 years. The discovery immediately sent shockwaves through the archaeological community, not only because of the skeleton's incredible age, but also because it predates the founding of Rome in 753 BCE by at least 300 years. For decades, researchers had speculated that the land where the Romans built their great capital was inhabited during the Bronze Age, yet concrete evidence had been scarce. This find provides a crucial piece in understanding the prehistoric phase of the area and reveals a society that existed long before the powerful empire we admire today. Anna DeSantis, one of the archaeologists involved in the excavation, explained that the woman died around the age of 30. The items found alongside her remains suggest she was far from ordinary: an amber necklace with a gold pendant, an intricately crafted bronze hairpin, and a bronze ring on her finger. 4 small bronze hooks, likely used to secure her burial shroud, were also discovered in the grave. Together, these details indicate she may have been a member of the elite class, or at the very least a person of high social status in her community. What makes this discovery even more remarkable is that the woman was buried, not cremated, which contrasts with the common funerary practice of ancient Italic peoples. Traditionally, Roman ancestors cremated their dead, placing the ashes in ceramic urns in sacred spaces. The decision to inter her body instead not only highlights a unique cultural aspect of the prehistoric period, but also marks a transitional moment in burial customs, from cremation to inhumation. Archaeologists are especially excited to note that the burial site is not far from where Julius Caesar would be cremated nearly 1,000 years later, following his dramatic assassination in the Roman Senate. The timing, location, and burial method seem to silently link two vastly different eras: a prehistoric civilization yet unnamed, and a mighty empire that would reshape world history. This discovery is far more than a skeleton lying undisturbed for 3,000 years. It is a whisper from the past, reminding us that Roman history, studied for centuries, still holds countless secrets. And sometimes, with just a single excavation in the right spot, an entire chapter of what was thought to be forgotten history can come alive with astonishing clarity. The grimly modest tomb of Wu Zetian's granddaughter, China's most powerful woman. A tiny, shabby tomb, even smaller than that of an ordinary palace maid. Can you believe it held Princess Anlei, the granddaughter of Wu Zetian and the beloved daughter of Emperor Zhongzong of Tang, the 4th and 6th emperor of the Tang dynasty? Sounds paradoxical, doesn't it? Yet in 2008, when experts excavated this tomb, the truth unearthed sent chills down everyone's spine. Not just because of the unusually decayed state of the tomb, but also because of a secret hidden for over 1,000 years, contained in a mere 300-character epitaph within the tomb. Princess Anlei was the youngest daughter of Emperor Zhongzong and Empress Wei. From a young age, she was pampered endlessly and became the source of joy for the emperor, who had been demoted to Fengling and lived in a state of depression. She appeared like a beacon of hope to lift her father's spirits. As she grew up, Anlei was betrothed to Wu Zongxun. Then opportunity arrived. Wu Zetian fell ill, Emperor Zhongzong returned to the throne, and Anlei returned to Chang'an in a grand procession, basking in glory. But life wasn't a fairy tale. Only 6 months after her wedding, the princess gave birth, sparking rumors among the public. Some claimed she married because she was pregnant, while others whispered that her behavior was promiscuous and the child might not even belong to Wu Zongxun. Regardless of the truth, her status remained extremely high, especially since Tang China valued women, making her even more powerful. Moreover, her aunt, Princess Taiping, held authority comparable to a top minister. Naturally ambitious and unwilling to be outdone, Anlei established her own residence, appointed officials, intervened in court affairs, and bribed ministers. Her influence grew day by day. Her followers praised her, dreaming of a second female emperor, rivaling Wu Zetian herself. From that point, Anlei demanded that her father proclaim her the imperial princess, effectively the heir to the throne. Emperor Zhongzong, doting on his daughter, assumed she was merely playing around and ignored her demands. But for Anlei, the throne was no joke. If Wu Zetian could rule, so could she. Her love for her father transformed into frustration, simmering eventually into hatred. As if ambition alone weren't enough, Anlei's personal life was equally scandalous. Her husband, Wu Zongxun, had a cousin, Wu Yanshu, a handsome, talented singer and dancer, who frequently visited the princess's residence. Inevitably, they carried on a secret affair while Wu Zongxun turned a blind eye. When Wu Zongxun later died of illness, Anlei immediately married Wu Yanshu, and on their wedding day, Princess Taiping even danced joyfully in celebration. Remarkably, to please his daughter, Emperor Zhongzong demolished half of Chang'an to build her a new residence as a wedding gift. But there was one thing he would never concede: the throne. And that refusal ultimately drove Anlei and Empress Wei to plot to poison the emperor in June 710, intending to enthrone Li Chongmao with Empress Wei as regent and then declare herself emperor. However, the plot reached the ears of Li Longji and Princess Taiping. They quickly reversed the situation. Li Longji led troops into the palace, and Anlei was killed on the spot. After Princess Anlei's death, Li Dan, father of Li Longji and brother of Princess Taiping, ascended the throne as Emperor Ruizong of Tang. Princess Anlei was stripped of her title and reduced to a rebellious palace maid, a humble servant of the court. According to Tang law, anyone committing treason became servants of the court without family status. Clearly, this law applied even to members of the royal family. Yet since she remained a member of the imperial household, Li Longji and others reluctantly allowed an epitaph to be erected for Princess Anlei, which remained hidden for over 1,000 years until its discovery. On the epitaph, Li Longji and others listed the princess's serious offenses: arrogance, rebellion, collusion with outsiders, plotting to kill the emperor. For treason, she was punished under the law for servants of the court without family. And the tiny, shabby, cramped tomb archaeologists discovered is the clearest evidence of the collapse of a life consumed by boundless ambition. Truly tragic, yet a fitting fate for someone so ruthless. 12 most bizarre archaeological discoveries of all time that even top scientists can't explain. Hello, welcome back to the latest video on the Ancient History channel. My friend, have you ever heard of archaeological discoveries so astonishing that they leave the entire world in shock? Discoveries that even scientists have no explanation for? Throughout history, humanity has not only created monumental achievements, but has also hidden countless strange mysteries that even the brightest minds have yet to unravel. From mass graves filled with haunting human remains, to mummies with bizarre appearances, to artifacts carrying mysterious powers beyond imagination, each discovery forces us to ask, do we really understand our own past? In today's video, we'll embark on a journey through the 12 most terrifying archaeological discoveries of all time. These stories are not only spine-chilling, but they also reveal mysteries that modern science still cannot decode. Every artifact, every site tells its own story, where the past meets the present and where things that once seemed impossible become undeniable evidence. Get ready, because what you're about to see will leave you astonished, unsettled, and perhaps even change the way you view the history you thought you knew. Now, let's dive into our first discovery. The mummy with the square mask of a wealthy man from ancient Egypt. Did you know that among the thousands of artifacts resting quietly inside the Louvre Museum in Paris, there is one figure that makes anyone who walks by stop and look again? It's a strange mummy whose face is completely covered with layers of linen arranged in perfectly concentric squares, as if someone deliberately sealed the identity of this mysterious man forever. Just one glance, and people immediately wonder, who was this man to be wrapped in such an unusual way? What makes this mummy truly special is its unique wrapping style. The linen strips are woven and layered meticulously, forming evenly spaced square patterns across the face, while the rest of the body beneath is remarkably well preserved under the linen. When the museum performed an X-ray scan, they discovered that the body belonged to an adult man who lived during the Ptolemaic period, around 305 to 300 BCE. Hearing that alone tells us he must have belonged to a wealthy class, someone who could afford a full mummification to prepare for the most dignified journey into the afterlife. Although his real name remains unknown, researchers believe this man may have been Pacheri or Nenu. The most striking feature is the square-shaped cartonnage mask covering the face, made from a material used for funerary masks from as early as 2181 BCE to as late as 400 CE. This cartonnage was created similarly to papier mâché, using layers of papyrus or linen mixed with plaster and then painted. The square mask, currently displayed beside the mummy, is decorated with symbols of rebirth, reflecting the Egyptian belief that the soul would continue to live in the afterlife. It doesn't end there. The mummy's collar is carved with images of the goddesses Nephthys and Isis, who were believed to protect the dead. The necklace is also elaborate, featuring beads with falcon head designs, symbols of the god Horus. From the chest down to the knees lies a ceremonial apron representing social status. The longer it was, the higher the person's rank. Looking closer, you can see the mummy lying on a bed surrounded by depictions of Nephthys, Isis, and the four sons of Horus, Imsiti, Duamutef, Hapi, and Kebasenuef. Corresponding to them are four jars that once held the liver, stomach, lungs, and intestines of the deceased, organs preserved during the mummification ritual except for the heart and brain. The heart was removed for safekeeping because Egyptians believed it housed the soul, while the brain was discarded, as they thought it contained only useless fluids. On the mummy's legs are images of Anubis and Anpu, the gods responsible for embalming and judging souls. According to Egyptian belief, Anubis would weigh the heart of the deceased against the feather of Ma'at to determine whether the soul was light enough to enter the realm of the dead. Herodotus, the Greek historian who lived around 450 BCE, once described the Egyptian mummification process in detail. They removed the brain through the nose, extracted the organs that would decay quickly, cleansed the body with resin and palm oil, then wrapped it in multiple layers of linen soaked in fragrant resin. While wrapping the body, priests would place protective amulets between the layers to safeguard the deceased on their journey to the afterlife. Because of this, it's very likely that the mummy of Pacheri or Nenu underwent the exact same process. Judging from the elaborate decorations, funerary items, and intricate wrapping, it's clear that this mysterious man must have been among the wealthiest of his time. Not everyone in ancient Egypt was treated with such honor. Most ordinary people were simply buried in the desert with only a few small offerings. Just imagine, behind those perfectly squared linen layers lies the entire life of a man who once held power and carried a profound belief in eternity. So if you ever find yourself standing before this mummy, what would you think? What made him deserving of such exceptional treatment? Feel free to share your thoughts below. Who knows, maybe you'll see a story no one else has noticed. And wouldn't that be something extraordinary? The alien-like mummy that appeared in Russia. If you think stories about strange creatures or extraterrestrials only exist in movies, then perhaps you've never heard about the mysterious incident that took place in the summer of 1996 in the village of Kyalynovy, near the city of Kishtim in Russia's Ural region. What happened there shocked the entire area, and to this day, no one has been able to fully explain it. Everything began when the villagers noticed Tamara Prosvarina, a retired woman living alone, often walking around carrying something tightly wrapped in a small blanket. She held it like a real infant, whispering to it as if it were alive. At first, everyone assumed she was simply confused. Her only son, Alexei, was already an adult, so what was this thing she kept cradling everywhere she went? One neighbor recalled, "She said it was her child, but no one ever got to see its face." People quietly assumed she was carrying a toy, a piece of wood, or just an object she clung to for comfort in her old age. But the truth, when it finally came out, sent chills through the entire village. The thing Prosvarina held was not a toy. It was a living creature. This creature stood only about 8 to 10 inches tall, had brown skin, no hair, bulging eyes, and a tiny mouth that made high-pitched sounds sharp enough to make anyone's skin crawl. One of her friends later said its body resembled that of a newborn baby, and Prosvarina even fed it cheese and condensed milk. Its mouth was red, as if wounded, and it always looked weak and sorrowful. Word of the creature spread quickly, and soon the entire Kishtim region was buzzing with rumors. Some believed it was an extraterrestrial that had fallen to Earth. Others had a darker theory. Perhaps it was a product of radiation-induced mutation. After all, Prosvarina lived in an area affected by the 1957 Kishtim nuclear disaster, a massive plutonium explosion at a nearby nuclear facility. Many surrounding regions were heavily contaminated, and the effects continued to haunt residents for decades. But those were only speculations. No one had real answers. Not long after the creature appeared, Prosvarina was admitted to a psychiatric hospital. When she returned home, the being she had cared for as her child was already dead. One of her friends, wanting to preserve the strange body, washed it with strong alcohol and dried it, making it look like a tiny mummy. Eventually, the creature's remains were handed over to the police for investigation. However, when medical experts examined the body, they were just as confused as everyone else. A pathologist claimed it was not human, but another doctor insisted it might have been a severely deformed infant. No consensus was ever reached. As for Prosvarina, the only person who had truly lived with the creature, she died in a car accident in 1999, taking many secrets with her to the grave. Other witnesses gradually passed away as well, leaving the story lingering like a ghostly legend in the memories of the locals. The case has even been compared to the humanoid body found in Chile's Atacama Desert in 2003. It wasn't until 2018 that Stanford researchers confirmed the Atacama specimen was actually a human child with a rare genetic mutation. This only raised more questions. Could the Kishtim creature have been a similar mutation? Or was it truly from somewhere beyond Earth? So what exactly was this being? A severely deformed infant? A product of radiation? Or the first real evidence of extraterrestrial life? What do you think about this mystery? Do you believe it could have been an alien? As for me, I still wouldn't dare make a definitive conclusion, because even now I'm just as baffled as ever. The 2,500-year-old virgin mummy, whose curse terrified all of Siberia. Amid the desolate mountains of the Altai range in Siberia, where icy winds sweep endlessly across frozen slopes and the ground remains locked in permafrost year-round, there lies a story that chills anyone who hears it. In 1993, under the leadership of Novosibirsk archaeologist Natalia Polosmak, an expedition uncovered something they never expected: the remarkably preserved mummy of a young virgin woman. untouched after 2,500 years beneath the eternal ice. From that moment on, she became known with deep reverence as the Altai princess. What astonished archaeologists wasn't just her near-perfect state of preservation, but also the intricate tattoos carved into her skin. These elaborate patterns revealed her social status, spiritual beliefs, and stories tied to the ancient tribe that once inhabited this frigid land. Each design was like a signature, messages from a culture long forgotten beneath millennia of snow and ice. Through extensive scientific analysis, experts discovered that the Altai princess had suffered from several severe illnesses, but it was cancer that ultimately caused her death, along with osteomyelitis, serious inflammation of the bone marrow caused by a long-term infection. When her illness worsened, she may have used opium to relieve unbearable pain. These revelations gradually painted a tragic portrait. She had chosen to live as a virgin, and upon her death, she was buried in an ice tomb with treasured belongings, a clear mark of her noble status within her tribe. But what truly turned the story frightening were the events that followed after her body was removed from the earth. Locals believe the Altai princess was not merely a historical figure. She was a sacred guardian, a protector of the boundary between the living and the dead. Her presence within the stone burial chamber for thousands of years was seen as a spiritual seal, maintaining natural and cosmic balance. According to their belief, the moment the tomb was opened, the gateway between the two worlds was cracked open. And in the decades that followed, the Altai region was struck by a series of earthquakes, floods, and natural disasters. Events that convinced many residents that the curse of the Altai princess had descended upon them for disturbing her eternal rest. Even today, elders in Altai still say that these harsh upheavals were no coincidence. Many regard the removal of the mummy as a violation of sacred boundaries. According to their belief, only by returning the princess to her rightful place in the frozen earth can the gateway of spirits be sealed once more and peace restored to their land. Because of this, countless locals have called for the princess to be returned to the spot where she had lain undisturbed for 25 centuries, hoping to calm the forces of nature and bring harmony back to their sacred mountains. So what do you think? Is all of this just coincidence, or is there something beyond human understanding at play? Could a 2,500-year-old mummy, a virgin woman whose life was marked by tragedy, truly possess the supernatural power the Altai people believe she holds? As for me, I feel this story still exists on the boundary between science and belief, between human curiosity and mysteries time has yet to solve. And perhaps it is that very uncertainty that makes the Altai princess one of the most enigmatic mummies on Earth. The Giant Skull Tower, revealing the Aztecs' terrifying rituals that shocked the world. When it comes to the most chilling mysteries of ancient Central America, the story of the Aztec Skull Tower is impossible to overlook. An eerie, overwhelming structure that sends shivers down the spine of anyone who hears about it. Right in the heart of modern-day Mexico City, near the ruins of the ancient Templo Mayor, archaeologists from Mexico's National Institute of Anthropology and History made a shocking discovery. More than 650 skulls fused together into a massive structure. This number is far more than a simple archaeological statistic. It is a gateway into the bloody, ritual-filled past of the once powerful Aztec Empire. You might wonder, where did those 650 skulls come from? And why were they built into an entire structure? The answer lies in the Huitzilopochtli, a gigantic skull rack that terrified the Spanish conquistadors when they first arrived in Tenochtitlan in the 16th century. They recorded seeing human heads lined up on display, exposed to sun and wind, serving as a chilling reminder of the Aztecs' extreme devotion and formidable power. According to historical records, the skulls belonged mostly to warriors captured before the Spanish conquest. These individuals were sacrificed to honor Huitzilopochtli, the god of the sun, war, and sacrifice. The Skull Tower, therefore, was not only a religious monument, but also a statement of the Aztec Empire's dominance over the lands it ruled. But the most startling discovery came from excavations conducted from 2015 to the present. Archaeologists realized the skulls were not uniform in age or gender. Among the remains were not only adult men, but also women and children. This forced researchers to rethink everything. Could it be that Aztec sacrifices weren't tied solely to warfare? Could their spiritual rituals have been far broader and far more complex than we ever imagined? The uncovered section of the Skull Tower is circular, measuring about 20 feet in diameter, and it sits directly within the ceremonial area dedicated to Huitzilopochtli. So far, 676 skulls have been counted in this latest excavation, and the figure may continue to rise as deeper layers are explored. Just imagine it, a sacred religious site encircling a ring of human skulls. It wasn't merely architecture, it was a terrifying declaration of Aztec faith, identity, and cultural power. The Aztecs, an umbrella term for several groups living in central Mexico, were one of the most powerful civilizations in Central America from the 14th to 16th century. They were renowned for their impressive architecture, their military triumphs, and also the haunting sacrificial rituals that continue to unnerve the world today. Brutal or not, the remains of their culture are invaluable treasures that help us understand humanity's past. So what do you think the true purpose of this skull tower was? A religious symbol? A warning to enemies? Or perhaps something even deeper and more mysterious? Take a guess, because the more we uncover, the more we realize that the Aztec Empire was anything but simple. The 3-ton coffin submerged in a sea of water in China. When it comes to Chinese archaeology, most people immediately think of magnificent tombs filled with countless treasures, from the mysterious Sangsing Dui to the famous mausoleum of the Marquis of Dai. Yet, among all these remarkable discoveries, there is one tomb that left researchers completely stunned due to its unprecedented peculiarity: a massive water tomb buried deep beneath the ground in Suzhou, Hubei. And the most extraordinary feature? Inside this tomb lies the heaviest coffin in the history of Chinese archaeology. The story begins in February 1978, when the Wuhan Air Force detonated explosives to expand a radar repair facility. Amid the dust and smoke, the sandstone on the hillside unexpectedly cracked open, revealing an area of earth with unusual coloring. This soil did not look natural, and signs of prior excavation were evident. Experts immediately recognized that this could be the top layer of an ancient, large-scale tomb constructed thousands of years ago. As predicted, a quick survey revealed the tomb spanned 2,370 square feet, with a depth of 43 feet. The coffin chamber alone measured 2,050 square feet, 6 times larger than the famous burial chamber of Lady Sin in the Marquis of Dai's tomb. Yet the tomb had no entrance, forcing archaeologists to use heavy cranes to move 47 massive stone slabs. Beneath these stones lay 8 feet of compacted soil, then a layer of green clay 4 to 12 inches thick for waterproofing, and finally 132,000 pounds of charcoal, an elaborate ancient anti-flooding system. However, when the wooden planks were lifted, the scene stunned everyone. The entire tomb was submerged in water. Though meticulously waterproofed, why had it sunk into a vast pool of water? The answer? An ancient earthquake or flood had ruptured the underground water table, submerging everything beneath it. Excavating the tomb required pumps working for hours to remove both water and mud. Only after the water receded did the true shape of the tomb emerge. Experts discovered the tomb was divided into 4 rectangular chambers, and in the eastern chamber lay the main coffin, resting silently as if waiting to be awakened after more than 2,400 years. This coffin astounded the world. It was made of a single cast bronze piece, 10.5 feet long, 6.9 feet wide, 7.2 feet high, and weighed a staggering 3.29 tons. The intricate embossed patterns on the coffin were almost unbelievable. Even more remarkably, the bronze coffin had a door, suggesting that the ancient builders believed the spirit could enter and leave its final resting place. Tests confirmed the remains inside were a male, approximately 5 feet 4 inches tall. Combined with inscriptions on the coffin, archaeologists identified this as the tomb of Marquis Zheng Hao Yi, ruler of the state of Zheng, a vassal state during the Warring States period, who lived around 475 to 433 BCE. The mysteries did not end there. As the water receded, 23 additional coffins unexpectedly floated inside the tomb. Each contained the remains of young women aged 13 to 25, palace musicians forced to follow the king in ritual burial. This cruel practice continued for centuries and was only abolished during the reign of Emperor Yingzong of the Ming dynasty, explaining its presence in the Marquis of Zheng's tomb. But that was not all. Archaeologists also uncovered more than 15,000 artifacts, including musical instruments, lacquered wooden objects, gold and jade, weapons, chariots, and over 6,200 bronze items. Among them, a set of 65 bronze bells stood out as the most magnificent musical instruments of the Warring States period. The largest bell measured 5 feet tall, weighing 449 pounds, while the smallest stood 8 inches tall, weighing 5.3 pounds. The total weight of the set reached 9,920 pounds, nearly 5 tons. A tomb submerged in water, a 3-ton bronze coffin, dozens of women sacrificed, and tens of thousands of treasures. All of these paint a vivid and tragic picture, revealing a dark and grandiose corner of ancient Chinese history. As you can see, it is both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Mysterious creature mummy, found in Russian diamond mine. In the icy lands of Yakutia, Russia, where diamond mines lie deep beneath ancient geological layers, one might think there is little left to surprise humanity. Yet, at the Udashny diamond mine, one of the largest in the world, miners accidentally unearthed something that left the scientific community stunned. A mummy of a mysterious creature lying undisturbed in sand for millions of years, unlike anything recorded in biological literature. When first discovered, everyone was shocked by the creature's strange appearance. Its body resembled that of a dinosaur, yet it bore certain traits of a carnivorous mammal. Its form seemed both familiar and alien, as if it had stepped out of the distant Mesozoic era. This ambiguity baffled experts, because the creature did not match any known animal species from the region. Some miners even boldly suggested it might be the remains of a previously unknown dinosaur species. Speculation quickly followed. Some experts proposed it could belong to the wolf family, a carnivorous mammal common in the area. Yet even they soon dismissed the idea, as no species with such a bizarre hybrid appearance had ever been documented in Yakutia. This only deepened the mystery, heightening curiosity about the creature's true identity, origin, and why it had been buried so deeply beneath the diamond mine's sand. Adding to the shock was the estimated age. The creature could date back to the Mesozoic era, which spanned 66 to 252 million years ago. This means it may have lived alongside the dinosaurs that once ruled the Earth. If true, this discovery opens a window into the most ancient periods of natural history, where secrets long erased by time suddenly resurface before human eyes. Currently, the mummy is being prepared for transport from Udashny to Yakutsk, the regional capital, for detailed analysis. Scientists there will examine its skeletal structure, measure each body part, and conduct DNA sequencing to determine its precise origin. Is it an extinct species from tens of millions of years ago, or an unknown evolutionary branch of life? As of now, no one can answer that question with certainty. Interestingly, the Udashny mine has long been associated with strange stories throughout its history. Discovered in 1955, it supplied massive amounts of diamonds to Russia, but beneath its layers lie ancient geological strata rich with traces of the past. Every few meters dug feels like peeling back layers of history buried by time. Perhaps this is why the discovery of such an out-of-the-book creature has sparked even greater curiosity. How many more secrets lie beneath the frozen ground of Yakutia? Will science one day piece together the full story of Earth's evolution using tiny traces like this mummy? It's impossible to say for sure, but it seems entirely possible. 2 mysterious mummies discovered near King Tutankhamun's tomb. The Valley of the Kings, a name that alone makes anyone interested in ancient Egypt marvel. This is the resting place of illustrious pharaohs, where grand tombs hold countless priceless artifacts and the secrets of a magnificent civilization. Among them, none is more famous than King Tutankhamun, whose nearly perfectly preserved body has become a symbol of the pharaoh's wealth and power. Recently, however, an unexpected discovery sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. 2 new mummies were found right next to Tutankhamun's tomb. What stunned experts was that neither of these individuals had been buried in royal tombs, as would normally be expected. Who were they? Why were they buried here, so close to one of Egypt's most famous kings? Initial investigations by researchers suggest that they were most likely not pharaohs. Instead, they may have been high-ranking officials or individuals who played important roles in the royal court, but who lacked the status to warrant a royal tomb. However, the absence of records about their original burial sites has made deciphering their story more challenging than ever. Of course, the story doesn't end there. Alongside the mummies, archaeologists uncovered the remains of several workshops and materials used in the mummification process. These findings provide valuable insights into ancient embalming techniques, from preparing materials and preservation methods to the meticulous steps performed by skilled craftsmen. These artifacts also shed light on the lives of the workers behind the grand projects, individuals whose lives were closely tied to the pharaohs but who were rarely recorded in history. It's fascinating to think that thousands of years later, even though many artifacts have deteriorated, enough remains to tell previously untold stories about the laborers, the secrets of the court, and the power relationships that may have remained hidden until now. These two mysterious mummies not only reignite archaeologists' curiosity, but also raise a larger question for all of us. Are we glimpsing just the tip of the iceberg in ancient Egyptian history, or only a small piece of a far more complex story? With each new discovery, the Valley of the Kings opens a new chapter of history, bringing us closer to understanding the lives, deaths, and unanswered mysteries of this magnificent civilization. Will these two mummies reveal new secrets about the pharaohs, or will they tell the story of the working class, the silent but crucial individuals? Only time and further research will provide the answers. But one thing is certain, every excavation here is utterly captivating, and the more we uncover, the more mysterious and enchanting the Valley of the Kings becomes. The mysterious baby demon mummy in Japan, a tiny creature that sends shivers across the nation. Have you ever heard of a creature that makes you gasp, unbelievable, at first sight? In Japan, there is a strange story that even seasoned researchers find puzzling. The baby demon mummy, a tiny yet terrifying creature that has sent chills down the spines of many. Born in a land rich with legends, the baby demon measures only about 12 inches in length, but its appearance is enough to startle anyone. It has 4 limbs tipped with long claws, a mouth stretched wide from ear to ear, and tiny horns sprouting from its forehead, seemingly warning anyone who dares to come close. Of course, what piques curiosity is not just its horrifying appearance, but the creature's mysterious origin. No one knows where it came from, why it was mummified, or whether it truly represents a newborn demon as legend claims, or if it was merely a hoax. According to surviving records, the mummy was once preserved at Rakanji Temple in the Yabake region of Oita Prefecture. The temple housed an ancient book called the Kishu, which contained detailed accounts of the baby demon. Tragedy struck in 1943, however, when a fire destroyed the temple, annihilating both the mummy and the invaluable records. Today, only a rare photograph remains, displayed as the sole evidence of this bizarre creature's existence. Some rumors suggest that the baby demon was once found on Kagoshima Island, but beyond this sparse detail, all other information has been lost to the passage of time. This mystery has turned the baby demon into one of the most captivating enigmas for those fascinated by supernatural phenomena and unusual creatures. The surviving photograph has become an object of intrigue, prompting questions. Is it proof of a real creature, or merely a product of imagination and superstition? Yamaguchi Bintaro, a writer and businessman passionate about oddities, preserved this photograph along with numerous other strange artifacts in his office. He is not just a collector, but also a custodian of these unresolved mystical stories. Thanks to Yamaguchi's efforts, the baby demon lives on in the imagination and curiosity of people, becoming a story that is both haunting and compelling, inspiring researchers to continue searching for clues about this extraordinary creature. Over time, although much information has been lost, the baby demon's allure has not diminished. On the contrary, these gaps in knowledge fuel endless questions, constant curiosity, and sometimes a shiver when imagining this tiny yet grotesque being. Perhaps that is why the baby demon remains one of Japan's most intriguing and unnerving mysteries. A small creature with an impact far greater than its size could ever suggest. Maskell grave of 500 women and children reveals the terrifying ghosts of World War II. If you think history is just a collection of dry numbers, an archaeological discovery at Dulag 191, a notorious Nazi concentration camp, will make your spine shiver. In southwestern Russia, near the border with Ukraine, archaeologists have uncovered a mass grave containing the remains of over 500 women and children, all innocent victims of one of the bloodiest chapters of World War II. Just hearing that is chilling, but the reality is far more horrifying. Dulag 191 is not merely a location on a map. It witnessed the deaths of approximately 8,500 people. Most of them were women and children, powerless against the cruelty of war. When archaeologists began excavating the site, they found fragments of human bones, many showing signs of fractures and gunshot wounds, all undeniable evidence of violent deaths with no trace of mercy. "The bones we found mostly belong to young people," said Mikhail Segodin, the lead archaeologist. "The saddest part is that no personal belongings were discovered except for a damaged cigarette case. This shows they were completely abandoned, with no respect whatsoever." These hastily dug mass graves were often located right beneath where the living were held, and were sometimes covered with only a thin layer of soil. Over time, the bone fragments re-emerged like whispers from the past, telling the story of unimaginable brutality. Local historian Victor Strelkin emphasized that these remains are the most vivid testimony to the pain of war. They remind us that every statistic in history represents real people, with lives, dreams, and fears of their own. This discovery is significant not only archaeologically, but also as a sobering reminder. War can wipe out an entire generation, and human cruelty sometimes surpasses imagination. Looking upon these remains, one can sense the loneliness, despair, and the urgent reminder of the value of peace. Nothing can erase their suffering, but remembering, studying, and recounting their story ensures that future generations never repeat such atrocities. Every bone fragment, every mass grave, is a reminder that human rights, respect, and compassion must never be forgotten if we are to avoid repeating the mistakes of history. Dulag 191, with its mass grave of 500 women and children, is not just an archaeological discovery. It is a terrifying yet necessary reminder that war steals not only land, but also lives, childhoods, and humanity itself. Through findings like these, we are able to confront the past, learn from it, and cherish every moment of peace that we have today. The 800-year-old mummy cemetery in northern Russia. At the Ziliny Yar site in northern Russia, a large-scale excavation has uncovered 34 ancient graves, including 11 mummies that have been almost perfectly preserved for over 800 years, along with countless artifacts that reveal untold stories about the lives of medieval people in this region. What makes this archaeological site so mysterious and captivating? Let's explore. The moment you step into the excavation area, anyone would be amazed by the richness and diversity of the artifacts found. Among the 11 mummies, some are particularly intriguing: a woman, a child, and 3 infants. Their entire bodies were coated in copper, a method that remains mysterious today, both in technique and meaning. Imagine it. The copper layer not only helped preserve the bodies, but also carried deep symbolic significance, forming a kind of armor against the ravages of time and the harsh environment. Surrounding these bodies were layers of reindeer, beaver, and bear fur, materials that ancient people used not only for warmth, but possibly for religious or funerary purposes. One mummy, a man with red hair, immediately drew attention due to the unusual hair color in the community. His body was also coated in copper, from chest to feet, creating an impenetrable metallic armor. Beside him lay an iron axe, unclear whether it was a weapon or a survival tool, along with a set of valuable furs and a copper key, perhaps symbolizing authority or an unlocked secret. All of these raised numerous questions about the daily life, social status, and funerary customs of the people who lived here. The 3 infant mummies were placed next to copper rings, which may have served as jewelry or protective talismans in the spiritual world. The presence of precious objects, such as a copper bowl originating from Persia, likely from the 10th or 11th century, a silver plate, a silver medallion, and other jewelry, further emphasizes the value and multicultural connections of this site. Could these items merely be decorative, or are they clues to understand trade relations and cultural exchanges between Eastern civilizations and medieval northern Russian communities? Archaeologist Natalia Fyodorova, who directly studied and led the excavation, shared, "Many mummies are scattered around the world, from permafrost regions to damp marshes, but this site is truly a unique archaeological discovery." Her words highlight the importance and rarity of this location, where every mummy and artifact preserves a piece of human history. Isn't it fascinating to consider that the belts, bracelets, and copper drums found here were not just daily objects, but may have carried ritual significance or symbolized the authority of ancient communities? Today, research institutes across Russia are rigorously analyzing the collected samples, working to unravel the mysteries of the medieval civilization that once thrived in this frozen land. Big questions remain. Why did they choose to coat their mummies in copper? Where did the precious items come from? What were their relationships with distant cultures like Persia? And what can we learn about their funerary customs and beliefs? All of these mysteries are waiting to be revealed. Imagine being part of this journey of discovery, uncovering stories hidden beneath the cold earth, where every artifact and every mummy is like an open history book waiting to tell its tale. The 600-year-old seated corpse that has not decomposed. On a barren mountain peak under the vast sky, where cold winds sweep across jagged rocks through the passage of centuries, there stands a small house hiding a timeless secret, a body seated in a meditative pose that has remained intact for over 600 years. What might capture your attention most is that the hair on the mummy's head is still fully preserved, something seemingly impossible for centuries-old remains anywhere else in the world. Have you ever wondered, how could a body be preserved so perfectly that modern scientists have yet to identify any chemical capable of doing the same? The story begins in the village of Guen, deep within the Spiti Valley, a forbidden land straddling the border between India and China. According to local villagers and monks, this body belongs to Sangha Tenzin, a renowned Tibetan monk. He meditated in the lotus position, hugging his knees and wrapping himself with ropes, seemingly attempting to preserve himself in endless stillness before passing away. The corpse was discovered not in a grand tomb, but in a natural cave, steeped in the sacred atmosphere of centuries of meditation. It was a devastating earthquake in the 1970s that revealed this hidden tomb. When the mountain split, the monk's mummy was exposed to the world for the first time, though it had lain in silence for centuries in the shadows of this forbidden land. For generations, only the villagers of Guen knew of its existence. Outsiders remained almost entirely unaware. It was not until recent years that scientists and adventurous climbers gained access to study and witness this extraordinary phenomenon. What is most remarkable is that even after over 600 years in the cave and more than 3 decades exposed to the elements, the body remains almost perfectly preserved. The skin is dry but not fully decomposed, the bones are firm, the hair is intact, and the teeth and nails are undamaged. Western scientists, astonished by this, quickly built a vacuum-sealed glass case to protect the mummy from environmental effects. They hope to preserve one of the world's most unique archaeological artifacts. Do you know the initial explanation scientists proposed for this miracle? They believed that before his death, Sangha Tenzin meditated in the lotus position without food or water, causing the body fat to be completely consumed, while other body parts shrank, shriveled, and naturally dried. Bacteria could not survive due to the absence of the moisture needed for decomposition. But does this fully explain why the hair remains intact and the skin retains its natural color after so many centuries? This mystery continues to baffle scientists and raise unanswered questions. According to Tibetan legend and belief, this is not merely a mummy. It represents the highest state of meditative attainment that a monk can achieve, a form of spiritual and physical immortality after years of ascetic practice. This corpse is not a symbol of death, but a testament to transcendence, surpassing all boundaries of life and death. Imagine standing before a living proof of the extraordinary power of human will and spiritual discipline, an unparalleled witness to the potential of the mind and body. The mysterious golden sphere at the bottom of Alaska's ocean. At a depth of more than 9,800 feet beneath the icy waters of Alaska's bay, where sunlight cannot reach and the pressure is enough to crush most ordinary exploration equipment, a shocking discovery left scientists exclaiming, "We still know so little about the planet we live on." In September 2023, during a survey using a remotely operated vehicle, ocean researchers accidentally came across an object of unusual shape and texture, resting on a rock in the ocean depths. It was a golden sphere, about 4 inches in diameter, as if placed there by some mysterious hand, and immediately it became the center of endless debate. What drew scientists' attention so intensely? First, this was not a rock, nor a fragment of artificial equipment or ocean debris. Preliminary on-site analysis suggested the sphere had a biological origin. But what kind of biological origin? Was it an egg, the remains of a marine creature, or an entirely new life form unknown to science? Various hypotheses were quickly proposed, but none were convincing enough to draw a conclusion. Some researchers speculated it might be an egg of an undiscovered deep-sea organism. Others suspected it could be a rare type of sponge found only in the abyss. More daring opinions suggested it could represent a completely new form of life, unlike anything previously recorded in marine biology. The mystery deepened when the golden sphere was brought to the surface. Exposed to decreased pressure and changing temperatures, it almost melted, losing its original shape and turning into a gelatinous mass, making structural analysis far more complicated. No longer an intact object, it became an amorphous blob. But that only fueled the curiosity of scientists and deep-sea explorers even further. Imagine this. What if this strange organism could hold the key to medical breakthroughs, new energy sources, or even future food supplies? It may sound far-fetched, but it is not without basis. According to Sam Candio, an expert from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, discoveries like this are clear proof that the deep sea remains an unlocked treasure trove. Unknown organisms may harbor biological compounds yet to be studied, potentially leading to new drugs, vaccines, or even regenerative technologies for humanity. That is why deep-sea exploration is not just a playground for scientists, it is an essential part of efforts to preserve and sustain life on Earth. And here's the striking part. All of these discoveries are only the tip of the iceberg. Experts are gradually collecting data on organisms, structures, and habitats from the deep-sea floor to create a comprehensive picture of this mysterious ecosystem. In the near future, we may have to revise entire biology textbooks just because of a single golden sphere that melted into a strange gelatinous substance. This is not merely a story of marine biology or a scientific finding. It is a reminder that even though humans have walked on the moon and are planning missions to Mars, right beneath our feet, in the vast oceans of Earth, there are still mysteries waiting to be solved. So, if you could ask the ocean a question, what would it be? Do you think that thousands of feet below the surface, there are creatures no one has ever seen, lost civilizations, or even answers to life's greatest questions? As you can see, these chilling archaeological discoveries are not only vivid evidence of humanity's mysterious past, but also a reminder that history always holds things we have yet to explain. Every artifact, every relic, tells a haunting yet meaningful story, urging us to keep learning and exploring. If you think you already understand the past, think again, because these mysteries will make you see history in an entirely new light. Thank you for taking the time to watch the entire video. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to catch our latest videos. For now, goodbye, and see you next time.